Mabuhay, Logistical, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. It's Friday the 13th. I hope you're feeling lucky tonight, not unlucky. And today's topic is going to be what keeps men from finding a foreign wife. I do a lot of videos, of course, about finding a woman in the Philippines, and I recommend any country if you're not having any success where you are. Many men are doing that, and but because of that, I mean, uh, and we talked here recently. Mr. E did a commentary about the crisis of young men. He's done other commentaries to kind of illustrate just the backdrop of the situation, where people in the West, what it's like where they are, and how it gets to the point where you get really frustrated, with things, and you just want one relationship, one good woman to be with, and like me, you get into your early 50s and you kind of feel like time is passing you by. Your life is almost over and you still haven't accomplished that. You don't know how you're going to. My solution was finding a foreign wife, going overseas for a wife. And you know the story if you've watched the videos. Less than 8 weeks later, I was married after struggling for decades, trying to get to first base. Hi, John, Phil's to Phoenix. I appreciate you joining tonight. Just getting started, Friday the 13th. I'm not feeling unlucky at all. I'm not superstitious, so I don't believe in luck. And finding a wife overseas isn't really lucky either. There are some things you have to do, and if you do, you can be rewarded with a wife. And so, we know here the climate is getting really, um, just difficult here in America where I am to find someone. And I think it's probably more complicated and challenging than it was when I found someone. And so someone could say, well, okay, maybe I should find a wife overseas. So what I want to talk about tonight is, what would keep a man from finding a foreign wife? Phil Phoenix, I know, is married, has been married to a Filipina for, I think, a little more or a little less than I have. I've been married 4.5 years, and so there were things where he and I and anyone else has to think about. Okay, if I'm going to go overseas for a wife, what am I supposed to do? And what could go wrong? You might agree that it's a good idea, but then actually executing it does take some risk. And I just jotted down here about a whole page of reasons why a guy might be a little bit hesitant to find a wife. And so that's what I would like to talk about. But for the most part, I just want to use these to kind of guide the discussion. And I'd like to hear from people out there. Mama Tarla, a new uh, person, a viewer tonight. I appreciate you being here. Curious on this topic? Well, what keeps men from finding a foreign wife? I wrote down a bunch of stuff, and there's probably a double that. Um, if I got in with a group of people and I said, okay, let's put our heads together and come up with the reasons, I've just got some of them. So I'll get into those here pretty quickly. This is Love Beyond the Sea. It's a YouTube channel about encouraging men to find a wife overseas, just like I did. I don't have to do a YouTube channel to help other guys, but I know I am sympathetic to how bad things are getting and how hard things were for me and how relatively simple the solution was. And so that's why I'm going to do this topic tonight. What keeps men from finding a foreign wife? So please subscribe to the channel. The WordPress, Love Beyond the Sea WordPress.com site is right up there on the top of the live chat. That would take you to, Facebook and Twitter, where I have tweets of the videos. And I'm kind of starting at the back end. So those are not necessarily current ones, although some of the current ones go there. But thanks for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to see people here tonight. Hello, Twit in the Philippines. Thank you for being here. I'm sure you also can help with some answers to this situation here, what keeps men from finding a foreign wife. A link for the community quarter message board if you would like to talk with other like-minded people about finding love overseas. You can sign up for the community corner message boards there, and a link for the newsletter. When I know I'm going to do a live stream, then I will put together a newsletter if I don't have as much trouble as I did last night, and that can go straight to your email address. So it's just something to think about. So and these are in no particular order, but one of the things on my list, because it was just 4.5 years ago, I had to consider all this. And one thing that is something to think about is the cost, the affordability. Now, we're not talking about living in the Philippines. We're talking about going out and meeting a Filipina. It could be that a man uses a dating site. Now, some of them don't cost anything. I personally would not recommend a place that was free, simply because, not that you can't find a decent woman there, but I think it's a lot easier for scammers to load up on those sites. And I will say that you should expect to find scammers on any site, no matter the reputation. I found mine on Christian Filipina, and joined up on March 13th. First Skype with my contact with my wife was March 17th. Proposed on April 4th, and we got married shortly after that. So it was very quick, but I didn't see anybody I thought was a scammer there. But I know that there are. I know there are. These dating sites are not run with 100 people in a room with the most sophisticated equipment. They do what they can. Christian Filipina does, but the scammers can be very sharp and exchange notes and become more elaborate in their ruses. So the affordability, start with a dating site, and I guess I'm not going to say what we paid, but it was, or what I paid, but I didn't plan on finding anybody so quickly. So I figured, well, I'll get the lifetime membership, and was expecting it to take a long time like it does here in the West, but it didn't. Are we going to be country specific with the expenses? Well, Twit in the Philippines, right now I'm just broaching up the topic of affordability of finding a wife. So, those costs will include a decent dating site. It will include flights over there. And if you know what it costs for one flight, well, then you know what to multiply. If you're going to take several trips to actually meet her and get to know her, there are costs for, condos or hotels. The transportation, other than the planes, once you get there, I don't think the transportation is going to be all that expensive, but you do have to stay somewhere, you have to eat, and well, that's just one thing. You also would have to have time, and not everybody is in a position to have unlimited time to go. I had vacation. It was like May, so I hadn't even used any of it probably. Actually, I did use a couple days because there were so many women online to talk to. I needed some way to help get my list narrowed down and in order. But the cost of just dating someone from another country, and that's mostly probably going to be flights. I'm not talking about the cost of sending her gifts, because that is better left to the couple that is serious, like they're engaged, they've already met, they're married. So that's not a cost that I'm talking about here. And affordability would just be the planes, and can the man afford that? Does he have the time off work? He's going to have to spend a couple of weeks there. Is he going to talk to just one Filipina? Maybe he thinks he needs to line up several at a time. Well, that's going to be more expensive, because he's probably not going to be in the same place if he's going to be there for 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm going to release a video maybe in the next couple of days about the advantages of chatting with several Filipinas, or just one Filipina. I started out talking to several and quickly narrowed it down to one. Mama Tarla, new subscriber. Thank you very much, Mama Tarla, because you would be the high water mark of this channel, and so that's very special to me. So you should know that, and feel free to contribute here about what keeps a man from finding a foreign wife. Well, he might be convinced, oh, I'm going to give up here in the West. Just can't find anybody. Not going to happen. I better do what other people are doing and go overseas. Well, the plane tickets, can be expensive, and just getting there can be expensive. And that's, I suppose, as a guy, one of the first things you think about is, what is it going to cost? And is that going to be affordable? Yes, Mama Tarlo, J-Bud 5000 here, he's a single guy, I'll tell you what. And a very sharp guy, but he's a MGTOW, and so I don't know if that means he's going to be on the market someday. I don't know what to say, but I know J Bud has a lot of insight, and he's a tremendous asset here on these live streams with the insight that he gives, and I'm sure he can comment on a lot of things today. So affordability can keep somebody from going. Now, me being single, and working pretty much the rest of the time, or going to the gym, I did have money saved up because I didn't really go anywhere, and I didn't want to go anywhere by myself. So so I had money saved up for that trip. Actually, it wasn't for the trip to the Philippines. I was just saving it, and I don't regret it. I spent, let's say, I spent in quadruple figures for the dating site. Okay, 4 figures, and I think I found a wife on by day 59. I was married. Was that worth it to spend that much money? And then in 59 days, I'm already legally married and working on a way to see her after immigration. Well, yeah, it was. I mean, the whole goal of it is to get married. It's like a baseball game. You can or basketball game. You can win on the last second shot in overtime, or you can win scoring 3 runs in the 9th inning, or you can blow the lid off in the 1st inning, and score about 9 or 10 runs, and it's over. So I won early. Not saying that's everybody's strategy. We just spent an awful lot of time talking, and I took a chance, I guess. I'm not saying it was a wild, stupid, foolish chance, but I felt like I had asked enough questions and I could kind of gauge that we were going to be okay to get married. And been married 4.5 years now. Jay Bud says, broke guys don't need to try. Plane tickets, hotels, expenses, money. Then if you want to get married, yes. Well, I didn't even list that. Of course, Jay Bud's first comment, and he adds something here that on a whole page of comments I did not have. You do have to, if your goal is to get married, then eventually you're going to have those marriage expenses. Then more plane tickets, getting her to the embassy for a visa. And so if you get too far ahead of yourself with the cost, you could kind of talk yourself out of it. Well, first I get there, and let's say it's going to cost me, it's $1,600 from here just to get to Davao. Might be a little more because I can never remember if the flight from Manila to Davao is a separate ticket or not. But 16, 17, 18, 1,700 probably to fly on a good price. Those 4 flights, and then so everything all told, it could be $2,500, maybe a little more, depending on how long you stay, what else you do, and if you're paying for all the things that she does, which you'll have to do in all likelihood, you might say $2,500, $3,000, and is that worth it? Well, then you always have to consider, well, how bad do I want to find this person? And as far as money goes, we always spend money on something. There's always things that we don't really hesitate to spend money on, that is important to us. And so, in the case of finding a foreign wife, we might have to say, well, I'm going to move the money into this area. I might have to kind of hold off on this other area I'm used to, because I'm going to go all in here. I don't advise anybody going in debt, of course, to do that, but I hadn't really thought about that. I'm just wanting to say it's very important to consider the money and weigh that against how bad you want to find that foreign wife. But a lot of expenses there. Mama Tarla, latest subscriber. I'm married to an amazing Latin American man. It was my husband who told me about this channel. Curious about the topic today. Well, Mama Tarla, then your husband might not have had to work through in his mind all of these things, but you can always ask him. Ask him, hubby. Um, did you ever reach a point where you thought, well, I'm not sure I'm going to go through with this? Or was he just, very determined that he was going to find somebody, and I assume you're from another country, and then and nothing was going to stop him? That's a good attitude too. So and I appreciate him telling you about love beyond the sea as well. Yeah, then getting her to the United States. So since we're talking about money like this, a twit in the Philippines says, I have enough money, it's just I really don't like gambling. Well, that's another concern. You might check off the first list and say, well, I've got the money to see her, I've got the money to immigrate her. I mean, it's not out of line to say, well, I might need, others can chime in if you've gone through these processes, and it's hard to say, but maybe including immigration, I would just throw out, $10,000, maybe 12,000 if you're going to see her, 2 or 3 times, depending on how expensive it is. If you live in California, you're seeing somebody in Manila, it's going to be a lot less expensive to fly there. And then I don't know what your living arrangements will be, but I don't know. Tell me if I'm too high on this, but 10 or 12,000, if you're going to spend, go several times, and there's different fees. I don't know, probably 6, 7, 8 different fees. You take care of one at a time. Your shots, the interview. She goes to the Philippines, Manila. She's for the embassy interview. She's going to have to stay somewhere. Then she's going to have to wait maybe a few days until she actually has the visa in hand, unless she goes back home and they mail it to her. Kind of depends what she wants to do with that. And then let's face it, unless you're going to go to the Philippines and meet her again and come back with her, which is a good idea, but it gets more expensive. I know somebody that did that. Aiza didn't want to save money, so she came all the way up here on her own, saved us like, I don't know, $1,600, and she was brave enough to do that. But that's also a cost on the back end, and then you got green card fees. So you include her ticket, 12,000 might be there, might be on the low end. Now, all of this money doesn't have to be there all at once. I mean, if you take 3 years from start to finish and she's already with you, then that looks different than if you do it all at once. It all depends, how many times you go, and what I'm talking about now is the same person. What if you go and you spend 2 or 3 trips to see somebody and it doesn't work out? Then if you decide to go back to the drawing board, then you're starting over with another person. And so at that point, it kind of, the burden is to make a good choice as soon as you can, so that you don't spend, 5 years and untold thousands trying to find this wife. Yeah, if a person is not, as J Bud says, broke, then really I think it would be, wise to not consider this option because, I mean, let's face it. I want anybody that has the opportunity to go find a wife overseas to do that, but and maybe it's not, just by chance I wrote that down. Very first thing on my list was cost, money, affordability. If that's just never going to be an option, then you wouldn't want to do that, because another layer in all of this, not just dating site and flying and hotels and then the marriage. If you get married in the Philippines, it's going to cost a certain amount. Of course, if you get married in the West, it's going to cost a certain amount, probably more. You get her up here, green card, there's fees, expenses. Then then once you're kind of settled down, somebody's going to have to provide some support monetarily to mama and papa. That's very, very normal and typical, and that's what the Filipina will want to do. So she'll want to work. So until she finds a job and is earning her own money, then you'll need to spend some money for her, to take care of her until she finds a job. Then she might, be the one that takes care of her family, but she might not be spending 100% of her income to help you, because it's different than in the West, where she feels obligated, very much so, to send money home, and so those things really, if it's not a factor, great, then you can move on to other concerns. But the money could be a big one. And a Twit in the Philippines talks about gambling. I think the reference there is, well, it's not so much the money, but the woman you come up with. Now you have to find out how to limit your risks there, so that it's not like just gambling. So it's not just chance. And you do have a chance to ask many, many questions. And when you're there in person, you can meet them. You can look at body language, tone of voice. You can tell. I mean, when we talked, my wife and I, like this, face to face in Skype, and I could see her family because she was at home, I got a certain impression, and that impression was verified when I was there. It was so nice to be with her in person. But there are guys that can say, well, they spoke quite a bit on camera, then they went to meet with this person, and for whatever reason, they seemed different. So very important, unless you're in a sort of a big hurry like I was, to just make real sure, because you could get a different vibe. I didn't, when I met her, and it was like we had known each other our whole life, strangely enough, when we got together. Yeah, and Jay Bud points out, hey, Twit, you gamble with choosing a girl in the United States. American girls will run a lot more game on you than a Panay will. So there you go. There's another consideration. Am I gambling by not trying to find a wife overseas, that I'm going to find someone here in America at age 53? I concluded, no, I don't see how. And since I'd never tried the international thing, I did, and got married. My wife is at work, or you might see her running around here. We are hopeful of being able to do a live stream on Sunday. If I think she's really sure about that, I'll put that in the newsletter. And again, you sign up for the newsletter and tell you when the live will be, what the topic will be, maybe a few statistics on just how the channel is going, and a classic video and a recent video, and stuff like that. So you could be gambling by, not trying to find someone in the Philippines or some other country. But yeah, the pickings seem to be getting slim here in the West. Twit in the Philippines says, Jay Bud, perhaps, but I don't date local girls. I've accumulated a fair amount of wealth. And that's good. And, like they say, you can't take it with you. And I like using money to make Aiza happy, and we're going to the Philippines here in 13 days. I cannot believe it. 13 days. And that trip got really expensive when we had to change our dates, unfortunately, about doubled the cost and then some. And but we're going to go. It'll be my 4th time in the Philippines. We've had this plan for 13 months, so I really want to go. Jay Bud now is now speaking Tagalog or something. Kabaso Mama Tarla. I have no idea what I just said. Phil's to Phoenix. Good evening, John. We figured about 7,000 just immigration fees and related expenses, not including the airfares. Okay, let me start over. 7,000 just immigration fees and related expenses, not including the airfares and vacation expenses to meet. And so, the $10,000 or $12,000 range. John, do you mind saying how many trips you actually made to the Philippines to meet your wife? I'm going to guess that it's hard to say, but for the person that's serious about finding a wife, they might make 2 trips, and maybe the third one they go out there and come back together. Maybe she comes up on her own, but I would say at least twice. But even you start getting 3 trips, then you got to build up vacation, you got to build up money. So that's a consideration. Jay Bud says, hey, Twit, don't mention your portfolio to any girl. Rike did a good video on this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you want to be careful. As far as, well, he's talking about portfolio, but a person does have to make a profile if he's on a dating site. And, you don't, while I say, and I have said and will continue to say, to be honest and about who you are, Jay Bud wisely points out here, you have to be careful with your portfolio. If you're doing really well, you don't need to come out and show that. You certainly don't want to go to the Philippines to meet her in a 3-piece suit or something. Well, yeah, that would be dangerous and also unnecessary. You'd also be uncomfortable, but don't go looking like you're $1 million, even if you are $1 million. Just dress very casually. You can talk about the line of work you're in, but until you're serious about someone, you don't have to reveal, where all your assets are. Now, at some point, you're going to have to put that in your petition. We did a spousal visa, probably the same thing with fiance visa. There's different sections, and then you got to put in your capacity to, or ability to provide. I don't know what it's called technically, but you put your tax statements in for returns for 3 years. So be able to get those, or don't throw them out if you go somewhere, and keep those. We go to H&R Block. There's one really close to us. And then you'll have to put, if you got a 401k and wherever your assets are, to show them that you can take care of her. But yeah, definitely don't want to flaunt your wealth. Twit in the Philippines asks Jay Bud, do you know Mr. Joe does Asia? Urban 9. Hey, Bob, Urban 9, good to see you here. Chime in anytime you want about what keeps men from finding a foreign wife. What gets in the back of his mind, and he starts slowing down, thinking, well, wait a minute, hold on here. What about this? What about that? Because I think it's getting easier to conclude that, we really should expand our horizons and consider a wife overseas. However, once you kind of hone in on that, then you're dealing with other things, and that's what I want to talk about. I just started off with money, and we've been taking that and running with it, which is absolutely fine. Oh well, I'm not gonna comment on that particular section or situation. Um, Non-YouTube friendly. Those are the kind you want to avoid. Uh, yeah, it's what in the Philippines. I appreciate that. Keeping on topic. And I do appreciate everybody giving me their time here tonight on a Friday, end of the work week. I hadn't worked in 10 weeks. Now I'm getting up at 4 in the morning, and well, I've had recovering from surgery, still have nerve damage in my foot, and I'm glad to be able to stay off my feet for a while before we go to the Philippines. Taking a Filipina a holiday can be tricky. There's always expenses, but if you have them, very, very good. Very, very good. Big Rob, hey, everyone, and hi to you, Big Rob. Thank you for joining us tonight. Friday night, Filipina Friday, if you will, talking about what keeps men from finding a foreign wife. Big Rob, you're involved with this very thing, so I'm going to list some stuff eventually here. We just started off talking about money, affordability, things that a man would be thinking about that might keep him from doing what you're doing and doing what I did and John and others, and that's go out and finding a foreign wife. What could make him think twice about doing that? That's what I am talking about tonight. So I'm glad to see you here, Big Rob. Phil's Phoenix, I made just the one before getting married, before bringing her here. Now we're looking to move back there. So that's a thing that can actually save you money. And we're doing the same thing. We're thinking about going there as Phil's to Phoenix is. Just one trip. That's all I did. I went there and married her on that trip. Otherwise, it would have been, another trip and more time. And I was just anxious to get going with that. So yeah, thanks. Just one trip. A Big Rob, I say 3 trips should be the max, not minimum, maximum. First time to visit, to get to know each other. Second time around, maybe engagement. Then the third time is to marry. And that's why I kind of thought, if you're really serious and you're going to get it done the third time, now whether this can, will get done the same year or not, probably not, because you probably need to get the calendar to roll over so you have more time, unless you're self-employed, and some people are, I suppose, and can get out there. But that's a good plan, Big Rob. First time, just visit, get to know each other. You've probably been chatting already. See each other in person, what they're really like, meet their friends, meet their family, and just see the Philippines. I think that's very, very important to see, what it was like for her, where she grew up. And second time, with intentions of marrying her. And if she says yes, and she very likely will, then the third time would be to marry. And then at some point, she'd have to immigrate. So, you might want to be there for that, or maybe she can do that herself. I'm always leery about going through those big airports with Aiza. I always seem to get, nervous, and I got to get in the right line. I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to miss this. But my wife's probably made 50 flights since she has been here, between our vacations and a couple of trips to the Philippines. Thank you for the thumbs up. So she's really good with the airports. Phil Phoenix says, Big Rob, we did pre-marriage counseling online with a pastor from our church. And so good to see that your pastor was online with that. John, I did a video with our pastor, who was the one that encouraged me, or at least didn't stand in the way of me finding a wife in the Philippines. It was his suggestion that I try something like that. And so to this day, I can call him up, meet him for lunch when we both have time, and talk about this relationship that he helped me to get into. So that may not always be the case, but like you, I'm glad that your pastor at church was not against that, and was in your corner. Yeah, Big Rob, online counseling. Uh, I guess the more you can do before you are together, the better. And once you are married, I think that the husband kind of has to take over that spiritual lead in the home, not hitting his wife over the head with things, but he needs to, be able to teach her the things that your online counseling, John, that you were taught. Those are the things that I, would need to reinforce with my wife, and I'm supposed to act like this, and these are my priorities. Okay, then I'm not going to let it go in this ear and not the other. I'm going to try to live those out for her, encourage her to find some quality women to help keep her grounded. I think would be a good idea. Yeah, that I'm glad you did that, and that gets you and Cindy off to a good start. Fear of making the move scares many. Many are afraid of being catfished. Well, see, there's that kind of falls under the category of scam, um, which I'm sure is on my list. Hank Hilliam, howdy, Hank. Glad to see you here tonight. What keeps men from finding a foreign wife? Do you have an opinion on that? Hank, please chime in with your thoughts as we've been doing here. I think most of us realize you can find a really excellent wife in the Philippines and other countries too. Don't need to limit it to the Philippines, but that's where I found my wife. But there are some concerns that a guy can have. Catfished, scammed, not knowing. Well, if you got to see them on person, or excuse me, face to face on cam, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the pretty face in front of the camera doesn't already have a spouse or something like that. That can be paralyzing, and that does happen, and you should be aware of that. This is where you may have to have her show you how serious she is, or sincere and genuine she is, and have her help you get a centimar. You might need some information she would have to provide you to show her status, her marital status. So I know all about the Philippines. Has had a couple videos on the use of acquiring a centimar, certificate of no marriage, that shows that she is able to marry and is not married to somebody else. That she would be unwilling to provide you a couple details to be able to get a centimar, which probably doesn't cost too much, $10 or $20, then that would be definitely a bad sign. Don't send money, of course. We say that all the time, unless you're serious. That is, some people have been scammed multiple times, and not giving money certainly is a big one. I know your heart goes out to her and her situation, especially if you've been there, and it's a big shock. But you still have to hold on to your money until you're engaged or you're already married, and then then you're like anybody else. That can prevent a guy. And so learn all you can from YouTube. Ask questions here, because you don't want to get into it, already have spent time and money, and then find out, they're not for real. Hank says, in my opinion, Filipinas look way better in person regarding that catfish worry. I was amazed at how small my wife was when I actually met her in person. She's 4'11", like 94 pounds. And when I hadn't seen her for 8 months before she arrived here in the States, I just said, wow, she is really little. But I like small women, so I was able to marry one. And that's a good thing. Filipinas are very attractive. Yeah, fear of the unknown, Hank. Horror stories like on Raffi, is it Tulfo? My wife has Raffi on her phone when we're laying in bed and I'm trying to fall asleep, and she's got Raffi on there, and sometimes I kind of look over and see what goes on, and once in a while he'll have some Westerners that got scammed pretty good, and so that's a big channel out there, and just a lot of unknown, fear of the unknown always. And so what can you do? What can you do when you're not sure? Well, you can you can talk to people like me, other people that have married Filipinas, and ask questions. I do have an email address, lovebeyondthesea, the number 4u at gmail.com. That's in the description box. You can contact me on the community corner, which is one of the links up there at the top of the live chat, where we can do private chats, direct chats, multiple people, private chats. Think of a topic and talk about, and just communicate with other like-minded people. Can be done there on the newly created community corner, thanks to Mr. E and his expertise. Now, fear of the unknown. I certainly had a lot of unknowns, but I just kind of put my head down and said, I'm going to do it, because I was more afraid of being single. I was more afraid of being alone the rest of my life, when I knew I needed to be married. And so that fear was greater than any other. And I guess when that's the case, the fear of being alone the rest of your life is greater than anything else, then you'll take the lesser fear of the unknown and learn what you can. And nowadays, I didn't know this, but Rike, who we mentioned earlier, was one of the original, I think, vloggers in this genre, as far as I can tell. And so I still watch his videos from time to time. Excellent videos on things to prepare yourself for that unknown. If you don't know anything about going there, or the women or the culture, you can learn that. And I didn't really start learning that till I got back from marrying her. But that's certainly something that you want to do. Fear of the unknown. Well, the one way is to alleviate fears by getting answers. For example, when I joined the Christian Filipina, I had a lot of questions, because I didn't know anything, like I just said. So I was asking them all kinds of questions, because I just didn't even know. I just didn't know. Fear of the unknown. Yeah, prevent guys from taking the leap. Absolutely. So you have to get answers. Big difference if you're going to choose a girl and live in the Philippines, bring one back in the U.S. Yeah, it is. Because, I did a video just recently on ways to prevent your Filipina from changing. This is once you've married her and brought her to the West, America in my case, which is a big concern for many men. In the live stream that came out maybe a year or so before that, I used the term Americanized. So, and I mentioned it in the video. So you don't want her to be negatively influenced by the West. That doesn't always happen. And so I'm listing many ways, many just, I think, practical ways in those videos. If you scroll down on the channel, they'll probably see those. They're not too far away. I didn't do them too long ago. And I think it's probably a 2-part series. And just simple things you can do to kind of keep her from straying or being negatively influenced. Mostly it's just what you can control, focusing on that. But if you're in the Philippines, boy, that lessens the likelihood of something going wrong very, very much. John was saying they plan on considering living in the Philippines. We are too. We have a house there. I'm going to be in it for the very first time. We finished it January of 2019, this year. We kind of broke ground on it, got the land in July of 18, which was the last time I was there. Now, we're going to be living there with some of her family. We've got the master bedroom. We've got our own bathroom. I don't really mind other people being around because it's what makes my wife happy, being around family. And what's good for her is good for me. So I'll try to make as many videos as I can because it's going to be an expat trial run to see what it's like with the heat and the roosters and people and everything else going on there. Definitely, if you can live there, or if you can bring her here with the thought that, yes, this is just temporary, that would make her at ease because, like John's thinking about, let's think about retiring the Philippines, and that's a good alternative too, to not marrying her and staying there in the Philippines. In the Philippines, Hank Hilliam, cultural differences definitely was on my list to talk about. There are cultural differences to consider when you're going to marry someone in another country. And then Hank adds here, if you were raised Catholic in a big family, no trouble then, because Catholicism, they say 80% of the Philippines is Catholic. And I am not Catholic, so I put in my filter Protestant and had no trouble talking to women who were Protestant. But many are, and Catholic and big families, definitely big families, abound in the Philippines. And with that big family comes a much emphasis on your Filipina, especially if she is the older daughter, to provide for that family back home. And it's just something you have to accept because it's not going to change. She is obligated, whether it's peer pressure, family pressure, or cultural, societal pressure, she's obligated to help, especially her parents. And if she's not allowed to help them, then her husband would have to pick up that slack. So I would, for other reasons too, I would recommend, letting her work in your country, as she probably will want to. Now, Twit in the Philippines says, I get the sense some foreigners do a fast track marriage, and Filipinas do fast track some foreigners. They wouldn't marry a Pinoy so quickly. Well, that's interesting. And I never even thought about that, Twit. In the Philippines, how fast they might marry a Pinoy, but the Pinoys marry Westerners very quickly if he's willing to do that. I mean, I guess I'm not used to hearing of Filipina being the one to get cold feet about it. And some foreigners, I moved quickly, but it's worked out. And yes, I'm learning about her and she's learning about me, but we knew that. I knew that getting married to her, we'd learn about each other during what turned out to be 8 months visa wait. And I'd continue to learn about her and she'd learn about me once she got here, January of 2016. We would continue to learn about each other and get in situations we didn't foresee and then have to adapt on those situations and try to keep things, hold things together. And I do want to go deep into, marital issues because I can't just tell you, hey, find a Filipina and then disappear. I need to be there to help with, how to get along with her. And that includes the family too. So yeah, Filipina will marry you quicker. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? All depends on how prepared you think you are to make that move. But you don't have to make any move unless you're comfortable. Hank Hilliam, like Rick and Gio often say, you can go on one date with Panay and she thinks you two are together. And to some of us, Hank, that's must be time for notifications here. For some of us, that's music to our ears. I know Gio had a video on, because I commented on it, about, what did he call it? Instant Girlfriend, something like that. Very catchy title, good for him. he's got a good channel, Rike's channel. Both of those guys are doing very, very well. And our two resource channels for people that are thinking about, maybe I need to go to the Philippines and look for a wife. Check them out. But yeah, if you should brace for that, because yeah, she's very much more likely than someone in the West to take your interest in her a lot more seriously and less casually than somebody in the West would. When she's thinking, well, when are you going to pop the question? Because we've been together for a few weeks, and man, where I was coming from, that would sound like heaven to me, But uh, then again, I was on the opposite end. I was like starving um, at that time, so I figure I went from famine to feast when I met my wife. Now here, okay, a twit in the Philippines. Hank Hillian, yes, because my reading of their culture is the male has to pursue quite intensely. Um, kind of old fashioned. I don't know. Doesn't that sound like the man pursues? And so if he does and he shows interest, then that will make a really excellent impression on the Filipina. Now, here in America, people might tell you, well, don't get too serious about her. Um, because, some have said, well, if once you start to show interest in a woman here, she's gone. You'll chase her off because you're serious about her. Now, on the other hand, in the Philippines, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And yeah, I always recommend being serious about her and pursue wisely. Once you find someone that you think, well, there's no reason this person couldn't make me a good wife, then get after it, pursue her hard, and she'll probably become your wife. Um, and then Hank says, well, courting, as they say. Well, courting, yeah, kind of means different things to different people. As opposed to dating where you're not as serious, courting where maybe it's more just the two of you, and you're also minding your P's and your Q's while you're there together. And another aspect of courting might be that you really are kind of looking to marry that person, and it's kind of understood that you two are that close and moving in that direction. Yeah, Hank says for foreigners, especially white ones, you just have to show up and not be creepy. Well, that always helps, to show up and not be creepy. Um, in addition to that, you just want to, be able to show her that you have a definite interest in her. Don't put down her culture. Just be good to her, like I did in a video. Nice guys finish first in the Philippines, and I think they do finish first. And I just think, I mean, I don't want to give away the title of another video I've got in my vault, but it is easier for a guy. The playing field is much more level if you go to if a man goes to the Philippines. Too hard for some of us, not to be creepy. Well, self-improvement. If there's something to work on, if we have to help ourselves with the creepiness factor, see what we can do about that. And we catch up here with the comments. I appreciate the comments here. Hank says there's also stigma on the Filipina side, especially if she is from a middle-class family and not poor. People in her social circle may look down on her. Yeah, that's true, Hank. Whereas, I mean, I don't know, do they just feel like they would have better options? This middle-class family, the Filipino who's not poor, do you think it's just because, well, I have options? Or, I mean, does the Westerner have to really blow away any of the competition? I know if she's not middle class and she's poor, yes, the foreigner probably has a better chance, and especially when considering a younger wife, an age gap relationship, which many appeals to many of us, and I've done, I don't know, half a dozen videos on that you can check out in a playlist called Younger Wife. So yeah, there can be a stigma there, contrary to popular belief. And the twin in the Philippines, mind you, says, yes, I get that sense that this stigma is increasing. And I would not be surprised at all about that. Or taste is changing the Philippines toward East Asians. I think overall, Hank says, Filipinos want half Caucasian children, so that won't change anytime soon. They may crush on K-pop idols, but ultimately want to live in Western countries. Very well, may be true. Simsimo Travel Vlogs, good morning. How are we doing? Are you in the Philippines? Simsimo Travel Vlogs, you may be in the Philippines or somewhere else. If you are, it's 8:57 in the morning. Good time to be getting up. And here where I am at 6:57 on a Friday night. If you're in the Philippines, it's already Saturday morning, 8:57. I'm doing fine, and I hope everyone else is, and I hope you have a relaxing weekend coming up. We're 2 weeks away from Christmas. We're going to the Philippines the day after Christmas, the 26th, and for about 23 days, I think. And then Twin the Philippines says, logically, yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer to live in the West or Japan, East Asia exception. South Korea is a fairly hard place to live unless hubby is seriously cashed up. Big E and Cebu, nice to see you here tonight. When you live here with her, that's one of the only ways to ensure she won't become Americanized. Here for Big E is Cebu, Philippines. And that's true. Big E and Cebu. That does help. That does help. And I suppose you might say, well, why? Why does that matter? Well, because the Philippines, from watching the TV shows, from watching the commercials, from being there 3 times, from talking to my wife, it is a different place. There's not the feminism, the societal, I don't know, unrest or whatever that you'd want to call it, that's going on here, the tension between men and women. There's not the women there aren't trying to be acting like they're not being treated fairly and they're not being treated equal, and they're trying to do masculine things, and I don't know, it's seen as a little bit more of a traditional throwback type situation, like my wife is. And you cannot, as I say in those videos, you can't tie her up and prevent her from going out in the world, working and being influenced by other people. You have to hope that she has a good head on her shoulders, and that you show her that nobody is going to be more committed to you than I am, and be good to her, and talk to her about what's wrong about things she may hear, and just keep letting her know you're committed to her. You're her biggest fan, and be nice to her, and little things like cooking her rice, and helping around the house, and just trying to give her way whenever you can. And she's not going to be there won't be any appeal out there, not that there would be anyway, but just to kind of affair proof things, or a westernized or Americanized proof things. Just be good to her. And certainly live in the Philippines, there are temptations and situations, pressures she's not going to deal with. Although many of us have to live here first, and so that's why I did a video on that. But Big E's right, and the other person that talked about that earlier. Just if you're there, that does make things easier. Hank says the lady I am seeing only has one sibling who is older, so she doesn't have any pressure to give a dime to her parents. And so, yeah, what I said earlier may be true. The elder sibling, and maybe even especially the elder daughter, um, maybe they can make more money because they're pretty or something. I don't know. Um, I think often mom and papa are done working a lot earlier than they are here, so they need that support. Things are different out there. You can post a job in public, wide open for everybody to see. You want a young woman, you know, a young person for the job, and you couldn't do that here in America because that would be seen as hiring discrimination. Simsimo travel vlogs. Never will I take Filipina back to UK. I may as well kiss goodbye to feminism and then go to the Philippines, is what you're saying. And well, if there's feminism there, I know what that's like. And you want to marry someone that I recommend wanting to marry someone that wants to do things like takes pride in the house. The way this place looks down here, Aiza always keeps it looking nice. And not just because you can see it here in the background, but this is our living room downstairs. And our bedroom is down here, the storeroom. And this is where we spend our time. And she wants it to look nice. Everywhere here, she wants to look nice. The garage, the storage room, she wants everything to look nice. If we have company over, she wants it to look nice. I like that. I think she would make a good mother. And maybe that happens someday. I suppose we could add that to our list here. What keeps men from finding a foreign wife? Well, if she doesn't have a child, she's going to want one. And so just be prepared to be in discussion about that. Courting just means being a simp. Well, that sounds kind of strong. I don't have a definition of courting here, but my understanding is it's you're really serious about each other. You're just going to go about your day-to-day life as if you're going to be married. You're going to be responsible. It might mean you're not going to have sex before you get married, and you're not seeing anybody else. It's just the two of you. And that's the way a Filipina would prefer it. Big E and Cebu, that's the rub. Most of them who show up are somewhat creepy, sad to say. Well, and some of those guys may find out that they're still not going to be able to attract a Filipina, depending on, I guess, the degree of creepiness. I mean, I just have in my own mind a definition of creepy, but just be a normal, nice guy. And I mean, I don't think it takes a whole lot over there. If you're just a normal, nice guy and she trusts you and you're willing to take the plunge and get married, then I think the odds are pretty good. Hank says, desire is not negotiation. If she likes you, she will show it. Twit in the Philippines, Hank Hilliam, yeah, men simp out too much. Simp out much, too much, her and in Philippines. Woman knows if she desires you within 20 minutes. That's nice to hear. Hank says if she's from a poor family, her family will see it as a step up and chance for her to emigrate and send money back home, as will her peers. And that's okay. We do that. I even do that. In fact, the longer we've been married, the more I want to help, which will be really easier to do when we're there full time. But I do want to help. We really do have it good here in America compared to many other places, and I just think it's fair. Be ready though when looking for a wife in the Philippines to, to support her family or to allow her to support her family. Just I think that's just the way it's going to be. So just need to accept that. Hank, that they do, twit. Some big vloggers too are huge simps. Simsimo, like any woman worldwide, act a wet lettuce and the woman will stay until you dry up. And twit in the Philippines, yeah, it's really not a good way for them to think. It's almost the opposite of the Western mind. Filipinas these days are more practical. I like practical, absolutely. Big E says, truthfully, the Americanized issue usually comes from American women who pressure the new Filipina and try to brainwash her. That doesn't exist in the Philippines. It's much more accepted. What are they going to do in the Philippines when it's very common? In America, you got older man, younger Filipina, 20-year age gap, which is really not much with a Filipina, and it's nothing in the Philippines. But if you're here in the West, you're in the 1% group. 99% of relationships and marriages do not have a 20-year age gap. And so, well, there's probably a likelihood of becoming water cooler topic when people are talking about you. And again, that's also on my list here. One of these times we may actually run down this, but that is on my list under thinking, fear of what others will think, because people at work, family, friends may think you're crazy because you're doing something they don't know what anybody else has done, or they do, but it didn't work out well. And they're just going to tell you, hey, I care about you. This is stupid. You're making a big mistake. If you ever see these 90-day fiance shows, big mistake, partner, don't do that. And that could get a guy saying, well, maybe they're right. I really want to do this. Really want to try to find a wife overseas, but I'm getting pressure here where I am. And then you've got the concern of, well, I believe I made a good choice, but now I have to deal with these thoughts of her coming to America and becoming Americanized. That's why I did the video on 29 ways to prevent your Filipina from becoming Americanized, because there are many couples where this does not happen. We're going to, I think, go out tomorrow night bowling. I won't be doing bowling, coming off of knee replacement and other issues, but us Fil-Am couples, maybe the other guys will bowl. I'm not. We're just going to go and talk. Aiza went bowling last week, and now all of a sudden, she wants to go bowling again. So she talked me into going. And these Fil-Am guy couples, I don't think they're in danger of breaking up. So I thought, well, why don't I try to say something, and instead of just saying, no, that's not going to happen. What can you do to prevent your Filipina from becoming Americanized? So I threw some things out there. Never seen anybody else do that topic, so I wanted to scroll down in the channel, and you can see some recent uploads on that. But what's going to happen? What are people going to think? Are women going to tell her, oh, honey, oh, you got taken advantage by this foreigner? He only wants you for your body. You're so pretty. I feel so bad that you married this foreigner. I mean, this guy's obviously a loser. I mean, she might be trying to get that across without being so crass. It's a big mistake. You better think about getting out. Well, who knows? But no, my wife, as far as I know, nobody has given her any trouble, or she hasn't talked to me about it. But she is aware of people talking, and I do the best I can to show her best life is with me, and there's no reason to. And I talked to her about feminism and why men from here are looking to the Philippines, because I think she should know that there's a reason why Filipinas, I think, are as attractive now as ever because of the changing situation in the West that Mr. E has aptly described in some videos we've been doing, that he has been doing and I've been reading. So back to the comments here. Good comments. Keep them coming. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, usually comes from American women. Simsino travel vlogs. My biggest gripe with Filipinas is the communication of an educated chat. And talking about the ability to communicate on many levels, because her situation in the Philippines is different, or I should say lack of. Okay, I saw the comment just below that. And I did put a topic in the community corner, intellectually stimulating wife. I mean, I don't know that there's been comments on that, but it's just a question. Do you need an intellectually stimulating wife? Other foreigners have said, well, I really can't go deep into communication with her on a variety of subjects. And, some of that's probably just where she's lived and the need to focus on daily survival and food and the basic needs that they have. That's the biggest thing. And so just to be safe, I would not expect, to marry someone and to be having a lot of deep conversations on things. I think you can find, as I wrote in that community corner, if I want deep intellectual discussion, I have other people I can talk with, or I can read something like that. That's not something I insist on from my wife. It wouldn't have been, in my dating profile of something that I was looking for from her. If you can get that, well, that's great. But it may not. It may not be. It may not happen. A twin in the Philippines says, I think Filipina's use of Instagram is quite revealing of certain cultural traits. Some of them seem to brag a lot, but I don't know how this sort of activity compares to, say, an American girl. And I'm kind of ignorant of Instagram. Is not, I don't know, I don't want to say it's pictures, right? Maybe more than anything else. I don't have an Instagram account. I don't know. I know that Filipinas might do a little bragging when they get to the West. And that's understandable. They've made a bold move to marry someone they probably don't know that well, going thousands of miles away from everything they know and love. And thanks for the thumbs up, by the way. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. And so they may brag a little bit. And, a lot of us guys, when we marry a Filipina, we do a little bragging ourselves because we're very pleased with the woman that we married. Instagram is not normally used by a decent Western or Asian lady. And that might be, I don't know. I don't know anything about Instagram. I just don't know about that. They're almost all on it, says a twit in the Philippines. Definitely some are hookers, but a lot of others have accounts too. Oh yeah, SimSimo, a lot of Facebook accounts there on Filipinas may have multiple accounts for whatever reason. I mean, my wife has, multiple accounts. I mean, friends, family, certain friends, different groups that she's with, and she has different names. I don't know why. At least I think she does. Maybe she. I know what I'm saying is she has multiple groups, but she has the same name. It's her, and so that's I guess different than what you're saying. But she will spend a lot of time on social media. So On this list here, I started with affordability. We talked quite a bit about that. Time off work. This guy's going to need time off work. Can he get it? Does he have the vacation? If he's retired, he may have the time, but does he have the health? Does he have the money to go start this relationship with a foreign woman? What about flying? I said we're going to leave in 13 days. I can't believe it. 4 flights to the Philippines, about 26 hours of plane time, which is really fast from here. And usually layovers, maybe 10 hours of layovers in there. Coming back, we've got a 12-hour layover just in Tokyo. But I just picked up the itinerary today. We're going to hire a private tour guide for 6 hours to use up some of that time to go around some places in Tokyo, so we can get back to the airport in plenty of time to do what we need to do. So that'll be interesting. Fear of flying. I talked to a gentleman at work before I went home today. He was telling me about an experience his wife had in Dallas, where she was flying, and they told everybody while they were in the air that the pilot said, well, I have to tell you, we are unable to tell if our landing gear will work when we land. We think so. We think we're going to be okay, but we can't tell and we can't see it. We don't know what's going to happen, but we think we're going to be okay. And so, of course, people got upset. We're scared. We're praying. We're nervous. And I said, you mean they were going to land that plane and the people did not know if the wheels were going to come down? And he said, yeah, they didn't know. So that was quite unsettling. And thankfully, the wheels did drop and they had a smooth landing. But, I wasn't a big flyer. But for the most part, barring some turbulence, it's no different than me sitting here talking to you tonight, except I have a little more elbow room here, and I can move around more freely. But for some, a fear of flying, not just being 30,000 feet in the air at 500 miles, maybe if a little claustrophobic, or you just don't like being around that many people. A plane, a long flight, a big, what they call those Airbuses, could have 300 people in it. Massive, massive planes. How in the world those things stay in the air? That could be frightening if you dwell on that. We've had good flights. Some trips, nary a turbulence. And other times, they tell you we might run into some boom and you hit some turbulence and just grab Aiza's hand. And but for the most part, they know what they're doing. The flights go good. But that could be a concern for some guy. Is the flying, not just that, but the airports, going in and out of the airports, getting in the right place, maybe having to go out, take a shuttle to the other airport, not being late, not having much layover time, and things like that can be a concern when somebody's looking for a wife overseas. Big E and Cebu, one common sense thing: the man or woman should try to be educationally matched and spiritually matched. If the man is waiter and the Filipina doctor, probably won't work. And I think that's a fair comment, a Big E. Educationally matched, spiritually matched. I mean, that makes things safer, more comfortable. I think, Aiza's smarter than I am. We have different abilities, and obviously I've been here and she's been there. And I think we do complement each other pretty well. I don't think either one of my wife or I feels that we have a right to be high-minded or anything like that. I certainly treat my wife as my better half. But good point. Educationally matched, spiritually matched. Good point. Also, or if the man is super educated person, the Filipino is unemployed and only, quote, in the house, it probably won't work long term. And these things they might have a high degree of difficulty, but they aren't deal breakers necessarily. But just consider, the ramifications of your situation, and you know, talk about how comfortable you can be. I still think it just comes down to how she's treated. Um, the bottom line is she's not going to ultimately care about your reputation or your knowledge or your skills or your education or how many people like you. She wants to be treated right, and I think that's, if a guy can do that, then that really levels the playing field. Simo Travel Vlogs, Biggie and Cebu, I am inclined to agree. In the interim, maybe no problem, but the cracks will show over time, i.e., after the honeymoon period. Yes, being together, definitely, and thanks for the thumbs up, will reveal things about yourselves. And so, yeah, don't get too carried away or overly excited early on, because I do think where the rubber meets the road is after you've been living together under the same roof, um, dealing with situations you weren't expecting, like we have. So that's a good comment. Twit in the Philippines, I think we're really underestimating how important Ligaw, Ligaw is to Filipinas. The fast tracking is actually a red flag quite often. And I could see that, where she's trying to scam him and feigning interest really quickly. Um, in my case, I was the one that initiated the fast, rapid relationship. It wasn't that Aiza was putting subtle pressure on me or overt pressure on me. Well, why don't we get married? You're such a nice guy. How can you be single? I don't understand that. You're such a great guy. And wow, you're everything I've been looking for. And you're so guapa and so on and so forth. I was the one that took the initiative to move quickly by proposing to her online, and all she had to do was say, "Oh no, sir, that's pretty fast," or I better think about it or talk it over with my parents or something. No, she just wanted to see me. She wanted to be sure I was really sincere about that, and she wasn't expecting anything that happened so fast. I wasn't either. That wasn't my plan running into it. Oh, Ligaw courtship. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, it's a bit unavoidable for foreign men, I guess, though. Simsimo asks, "Are you in a relationship yet?" Twit in the Philippines. No, I've dated a bit, but need to be there at least a couple times a month if I was going to have a relationship. Or, excuse me, be there at least a couple of months. Yes, if you're going to have your boots on the ground, um, the more time, the better. If you have that kind of time to be in there in person, then when you go through a list of things, then and you should. I mean, don't just make a mental list. Write down things that you're concerned about, so that you can be certain that you're doing the right thing by looking for a wife overseas. Big E and Cebu. The nice part is there are many educated women here who are also looking. See, thank you very much for providing that comment, Big E and Cebu. I appreciate that. Sean Dunaway, a long-time lurker, first-time chatter. This channel got me to sign up with CF, Christian Filipina. Thanks. I hope, Sean. Thank you very much for commenting here. And anytime, Sean, you want some help with questions about Christian Filipina, I mean, just there's a link up there in the top of the live chat. Maybe when you're done, you can scroll all the way up there. Join the community corner. Um, you know, you can open up a room, contact me for a direct chat, private chat they call it, and we can talk. We can talk right there. You can send me an email too if you want, but you also may have a little more privacy over there. It's up to you. Um, I found my wife there, and they were very helpful to me. Customer service, which is very important to me because customer service seems to be on the decline here in the States. But I think they realize that men are going to be asking certain questions, probably very similar questions, and they're prepared to answer them. So thank you for joining here tonight, and I do hope that your experience on Christian Filipina is good. Don't be afraid to ask the people there. Sean, the woman I'm contacting said this or did this. What does that mean? I don't know what she means, or I'm confused about something. Just ask them. Again, you're welcome to contact me also through email or Community Corner private chat. So good to see you here tonight. SimSimo travel vlog, spot on. But buyers beware. They are good, my brother, very seductive. The best of us can fall for it. Well, when you're looking at a pretty face, brown skin, pretty smile, big brown eyes, long, beautiful black hair, then that can cause a man to think differently. And so it really can, especially when you start chatting with someone and you start kind of putting it in your calendar, so to speak, where you start working it into your day and it becomes an expectation, then you can get hooked. So no money. Be wary of anyone asking questions about your health or your finances or asking you for money or wearing sexy, revealing clothes. Those things will save you, I think, a lot of trouble down the road. Set a few spreadsheets up so they all get equal. Rhino Wisdom, good to see you, Rhino Wisdom. Thank you for joining the live stream tonight. Long courtships are no guarantee of a successful marriage. How many marriages here in the West have long courtships, yet the marriages end in divorce? And of course, Rhino, you're right about that. And then a twit in the Philippines responds, yeah, but that's the courtship culture in Philippines. And I agree with you, Rhino. I mentioned that in videos that you can date for 4 or 5 years, or you can know somebody from high school or something, and still it doesn't work out once you are living under the same roof and there's no safety net, so to speak, and you're married. And long courtships, well, you think you know everything, but a lot of times people in long courtships are living together, but they haven't made the commitment to marry, and so there must be something in there that is unresolved. And then when they do get married, something that really wasn't resolved in the courtship period shows up in the marriage, and they didn't really work on it because maybe they were avoiding something. I don't know. By having a long courtship, I don't understand a long courtship. I'd rather just get married, and we got married in 54 days. That would be, maybe that wasn't. You can't say that wasn't the brightest thing to do, because we've been happily married 4.5 years, and we have a house in the Philippines now that we're both paying for, and we're going to be living there. That's our retirement home. And so we have future plans together. We've been committed, and I'm glad I married her. I didn't plan on getting married so soon, but that's the way it worked out. And I have heard others get married faster than that, believe it or not, especially if they're already, there in the Philippines. I brought her back over here to the West, but we're okay. But you're right, long courtships, some of them don't work out. People get married quickly, and it does work out. So that's a good question you have to all be thinking about. Why is that? My short guess at an answer would be that the people generally that get married faster are more ready for that marriage and the responsibilities and the unknowns of that marriage, because they proved it. They got married, and they got married sooner than later. Whereas there may be something, I don't know, if someone that's been dating for 4 or 5 years, that just seems like a real long time to me. Um, so yeah, I think it all comes down to not so much length of time, but what you're doing um, to make that relationship work. Simsimo travel vlogs. I still miss a scammer I stopped talking to. That's how good they can get. In 5 minutes and find out she was married. Well, yeah, you get used to that. You go to bed thinking, oh, yeah, what a wonderful conversation. We're talking in the morning, and I'm going to show her what I'm doing, and maybe open up a little bit more each time, and maybe we have a future, and you miss it. And it can be very intoxicating when you start looking at a foreign woman, especially if you haven't communicated with, younger, pretty woman in a long time or ever. It can make a man do strange things. So, gotta make sure you know what you're doing is, think through what you're doing, and maybe talk to people, at least one person you trust, and open up to them. And if you're doing something strange, they might be able to tell you that. So I mentioned fear of flying. They might be concerned, well, how can I be compatible with a foreign woman? I think in the case of Filipinas, you don't have to be extremely compatible. I think they're very, what's the word? They adapt to Westerners well. They can adapt living in different parts of the world. They can adapt to being in different weather. They can adapt to people of different ages. They can adapt to a different culture. So compatibility, I think, is kind of taken care of by, again, how you treat her, how important she thinks she is to you, and then I don't think that the compatibility, although we were just talking about he's a doctor, and she's been hasn't been working, and I mean anything can still work out if she's treated right. But again, you should think about that. Are we compatible? Do I think we'll be compatible 5 or 10 years from now, and so on. And again, we talk about fear of getting scammed, fear of what others will think. In my case, I never thought of what others would think. I didn't know. I never even stopped to think about that. All I cared was I needed to find a wife, and I guess I would just think about that later. Now, I know I heard some at work weren't crazy about what I did, whatever that means. Maybe they thought I was crazy, stupid, or I was going to get scammed, or because I got married so fast, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know, because that's just scuttlebutt. But in person, nobody has, said anything to me, or anything in particular, or my wife hasn't said anything to me either. But you can't be concerned about. If you're more concerned about what others think than you are of finding a good wife, then I think the priorities are off there. J Bud, make time beyond the sea. J Bud, I think you're on to something there. There's no limit to how many YouTube channels use the term beyond the sea. In fact, believe it or not, Love Beyond the Sea is the name of an international dating organization that holds tours, which seems like a really cool idea. I'm sure they're very expensive, but you get to meet a lot of women at one time in social setting, and then you just go from there. It's another way of doing it, but they're called Love Beyond the Sea. So I hope one day they don't come knocking on my door and say, well, we don't like your channel name, because I didn't know anything. They were there before I started my channel. I just had my own reasons for naming it that, which I have a video about. that you can check out sometime. I have a lot of respect for Rike's channel because I watched it too. I watched it a lot and started to learn about the Philippines when after I was married and started watching YouTube videos. MGTOW, Beyond the Sea. I tell you what, if I was MGTOW, I'd think about that. At Twit in the Philippines at SimSimo Travel Vlogs, I knew a Panay who was scamming an older American man. I told her she's bad. I chatted to her for like 2 years before, though. So yeah, you had some experience. Bob, do you think it's a cultural trait for Panays to be generous with their boyfriends? Generous with their boyfriends. Are you talking, sexually generous with their boyfriends? I don't know. We got married before we did anything. So I don't know. Are Panays easy? Is that what you're asking? I don't know. I would guess they're probably, if that's what you mean by generous, they might be. I mean, there's a lot of children born there outside of marriage, and maybe there's something to that. Now, Simsimo says, good question. As often I've heard they take money from online from foreigner and give money to their Panay. Or should that be Pinoy? Well, anything can happen when you're 5, 6, 7, 8,000 miles apart. That is a risk. We're getting into different waters here, looking for a foreign wife, and so generous with gifts. Are the Filipinas the ones that are generous with gifts? Well, this shirt here is, I think it looks better in real life than it does on the camera. My wife bought me this for part of Black Friday. Last live stream, I wore another shirt she got me. She bought me several other shirts I think we'll wear to the Philippines. Really nice shirts. I just, rarely. My wife might buy me something that doesn't fit, but rarely do I tell her it doesn't appeal to me. And she likes to buy me gifts. Maybe there's something in the Filipinas in general about that, but Aiza definitely likes to buy gifts for other people and for me. And I'm not the best with buying gifts. That's not really my love language, which is a topic of another video. But yeah, that might be. Yeah, Pinoy. Sorry, I have Pinoys on the brain. Yeah, give money to their Pinoy. I mean, how do you know? You might give her money for something that you've agreed on, or you just might give it to her because you want to, and she uses it for a Pinoy. That's a boyfriend in the Philippines, a male Filipino, and or a family member, or some other reason that you didn't give it to her. Yeah, I mean that can happen because money is in short supply. And they know people that are starving, and that can happen. Well, Rhino, I appreciate that. Any compliment on my attire goes to Aiza. I thought the last shirt she bought was kind of wild. This is very much more plain and simple, but I like the other shirt, and we'll wear that in the Philippines. But she has good taste. J Bud, so other than not having money, there's no reason not to look at getting married with Panays. American girls will make you grab your ankles with no Vaseline in divorce court. The money is a big factor, J Bud. And if somebody is serious about marrying a Filipina, there are concerns, there are things to check out. But if you have the money, then it comes down to using your brain and not getting scammed, because if you find a good one, she'll marry you if you're a nice guy. So I don't know why some women I've noticed when I was looking through on Christian Filipina, you can probably tell on other dating sites how long they've been on. Beautiful woman, and she's been there for like 3 or 4 or 5 years, and she's still there. My first thought was, where are these foreigners? Why aren't they, snapping her up? Um, I don't know. Some guys, and I'll mention this down here below. Some guys aren't really sure, and they're a little bit hesitant and nervous, and maybe other guys just have so much fun chatting and flirting with them that they're really, really not serious. A generous girlfriend, in the Philippines. Yeah, if you can find a generous girlfriend, that is a good thing. So I think, Jay Bud, you're right. The big one is the money. Beyond that, it's just comfort level and making yourself comfortable by asking questions, learning about the culture, and so on. Now, I mentioned fear of what others will think. That comes from different directions. Another thing to think about for this foreigner is what he thinks. I mean, he might watch Love Beyond the Sea or some other channel, and they're saying, see, I married a Filipina. I'm not a loser, but I kind of felt like one because I wasn't getting anywhere. What did I do differently? I went to another country, and it worked. But there's things to watch out for, and so they start thinking, well, yeah, maybe I could, and it's not the money, and it's not the getting time off work, and it's not the fear of flying. And I'm not, so concerned about getting scammed or compatibility, but maybe they say, I'm just not sure. I just don't know about international marriage. Never thought about that before. It's kind of way out there, way outside the box. I'm just not sure. There are some people that don't think international marriage, I've come across this since having the channel. They think international marriage is sinful. I don't believe it is sinful. I think anybody in the world, if you have the major things in common, your character, your religion, or just education, or whatever you feel like your must-haves are. Anyone in the world, which is a lot smaller these days with Skype and other apps like that, is fair game. And so for some people, they're thinking, well, I don't know anybody that's really done this, so how do I know they're really working out? It just seems so strange to have to go to another country to marry someone, and you're talking about a younger woman. I'm not sure that would work out well. And and they're thinking, I don't know. They're not comfortable. Okay, then they're not ready. They shouldn't proceed until they're comfortable with whatever is on their mental list or their list on paper. They might think, well, I just don't know. It just seems so strange, but they have to be comfortable. Family disapproval, you see that on 90 Day Fiance. In our case, Aiza from the Philippines talked on Skype with my mother, who didn't know anything about Skype. So, Mom, come on over. This is the woman I'm engaged to. I want you to meet her. Come on over, talk to her. Aiza was really excited, typing away and stuff and asking questions. And we got my aunt over, and she would talk to Aiza. So by the time Aiza got here, it wasn't like my family. We have very little family here, but they knew who she was. And I have a video in the Just Us category or playlist where she met my mom her very first day here in the United States, fresh off the plane. We lived in an apartment at the time, but she said, let's go meet Mom. So we surprised her because we told my mom Aiza wouldn't be picked up for 2 more days. So we surprised her. Aiza hid behind the door. I opened the door, and my mom said, what are you doing at the front door? Because I usually come to the garage. And then Aiza turns around, and my mom starts crying and hugging, and so she was anticipating Aiza's arrival because they got to know each other on Skype. And my mom even is familiar with my wife's family in the Philippines because Aiza has her phone on, and she lets her talk to the children, and that's a good thing. And the Philippines, sleep tight. Thanks for being here tonight, and thanks for your participation in the show. Jay Bud says you can date off of Tinder in the United States and enjoy the company of over-the-hill bitter women and sit on their furniture with all the cat hair. Well, no thanks. I mean, you could. It's an option. But a foreign wife is also an option if you can make yourself comfortable with that idea. And Big E and Cebu says, just keep in mind there's something like a 20-to-1 ratio, of females on dating sites to men. It seems like more than that. Many want out. Just keep it realistic and ask why so many want to go. If you're referring to Filipinas leaving, well, I mean, if they're 26, 28 years old, they may feel like they aren't valued by even men in the Philippines. So I have read over and over, and a lot of the Westerners are only looking for younger women in their early 20s. And so, they might say, well, I'm going to take the first thing I can get. And again, some of these women are very beautiful, seem very sweet, and they've been on these dating sites languishing for years. And I suppose if they're there in abundance over the men, then it's harder for them to actually, it's easier for a man to find a woman than the other way around. But there's an abundance out there. I think there's no shortage over there in the Philippines. So yeah, big ratio. Big E, many Filipino to Filipino relations don't work. Cheating is rampant. Yes, it is. Point is, keep it realistic and don't get Asian fever. And if you call Christian Filipina, ask them, like I did, why are these women looking for a man so far away? They won't beat around the bush. They'll answer your questions, and the Filipinas will too, very honestly. Just don't end up on the Bataan Death March. Whatever it is, Jay Bud, that sounds terrible to me. Big E says, all I'm saying on that is if it's not a good relationship situation here amongst Filipinos, it's not a good relationship always here amongst Filipinos. Pick very high quality woman, not just anyone who is throwing themselves around. Yeah, you're the one that needs to be initiating the whole thing, pursuing the whole thing. Pick a good quality woman. Have standards. Don't be unrealistic, and and you can probably get married as soon as you want. So thank you, Big E, for your comments. SimSimo Travelogues, what's a good free site? I may just wait until I go in a few months and hit malls, etc. A free site, I don't know. I mean, what are the biggies? There's, I think from what I've heard other people say, Date in Asia, you might see it DIA, that stands for Date in Asia. I believe that's a free site, although I do think there's going to be more scammers there. It just tends to be, for whatever reason. That's the only one I would say off the top of my head. And there are literally thousands of these dating sites in Asia. There are more than we know of. Being there personally is a good idea. A little more dangerous probably on a free site. Same thing, you just may have to wade through more scammers. But can there be sincere women there? I don't see why not. But you might try DIA, Date in Asia, see what people think about it. Not just necessarily the dating site itself, because you're probably going to get a one-sided story. I know Christian Filipina had a top rating with the Better Business Bureau, and so many people have affiliate links like I do with Christian Filipina, and they're not even married, or they're married but they didn't marry someone there, but they have heard of its popularity, and they have heard of how many people think it's a good site to find a wife, and the customer service to help you find that woman is really good. Customer service is very very important to me. I only know of a couple places I could say that have really good customer service. I did that video on those supplements recently, Life Extension Foundation. I pick up the phone and I call that number, and immediately somebody answers the phone and they know who I am. You know, and I said, I ordered this like a week ago, and I don't see your package at my door. It's usually the first one here. Well, they assured me that it might even be there today. And sure enough, while I was talking to them, the doorbell rang, and FedEx or whoever dropped it off at the door. But all I got to do is call them, and they answer immediately, and they know who I am, and they know what's going on. So very, very amazing. Another thing that can keep a man from finding or pursuing a foreign wife, maybe he thinks, we just don't have enough in common, and that's a valid point. But my counter to that would be, what did Aiza and I have in common? So we can always try to develop things in common interests, go out and do certain things. She likes movies, and she likes to go out and see, plays, and like Phantom of the Opera or Cinderella, or what's the one, Beauty and the Beast. And thanks for the thumbs up, appreciate that. And so I never, went to those things, and I'm really impressed with it's great. I mean, the talent, I like talent, and I like people that can sing and act. And when you can see that at the same time, and all the choreography and the storyline, I mean, it's impressive. I've never been disappointed at the end of one of these plays, because they're always big time talent. And we saw some in Branson, Missouri. We've seen some here in town. There's a lead center. We've seen some really good performances. Yeah. Jay Bud says, if they immediately ask or hint for money, it's a scam. If they say they're on a friend's phone because their phone was stolen, it's a scam. And that's good advice. And of course, Jay Bud, yes, there can be family emergencies. Like I don't need the money. I don't need the money for a phone, but I've got a sick relative, and is you might feel like you're being heartless by saying no, but I don't know. I wouldn't feel good about saying, well, I'll give you the money, but I want to see that hospital receipt. I don't know. That just kind of turns me off. And if you were to say, I think I'll pass, because unfortunately there's a lot of scamming going on, and that's one of the ways, and I'm just not going to be a part of that. There's a lot of fish in that sea, so I'm going to move on. I don't think you have to feel guilty about doing that. And Simsimo, you would think Philippines would have the best customer service, as they are known for wanting money. Well, they actually do. Their customer service people are very polite and patient, and that's why they're very good at what they do, because they have to deal with some rude people a lot, and they handle it very well. But yeah, the scammers, they can put on an act. And so the easy way is to think of it like this: a Filipina who respects herself is just not going to do it. She's just not going to ask you to help her. Now, if you're married and she has to get to the embassy and has to stay somewhere and plan a wedding, well, of course she's going to need your help. But that's because the relationship has gotten to a level where it is, proper and expected. And Jay Bud adds, if she needs tuition money or will be kicked out of school, it's a scam. I can believe that. Simsimo Travel Vlogs had all the possible scams going on DIA, a date in Asia. That's why I wonder if there are any better sites. For free sites, couldn't tell you. I don't know. I don't even know what the others are. That's just one that I've heard of, that other people have used. all these sites, somebody likes, somebody found a good wife there. Yeah, Jay Bud says, good advice. Just accept the fact that you will meet scammers. Just laugh and move on to next. And that's a good point, Jay Bud. And another one that I could add to this list. I should be writing these down. I can just go over it later, I guess, um, for an upload version, because a guy could get scammed, and it doesn't mean that he can't meet a good wife out there. But he got scammed, and he is shocked, and maybe he wasn't even prepared that he might be scammed, and maybe he was. But then when it happens, it's a jolt to the system, and he's thinking immediately, oh man, this is going to happen next time. This isn't for me. I give up. So if you are scammed, then, and that is topic of yet another video in my vault, that I have to tape. I have written, I just tape it. How do you handle being scammed? Well, you can give up and assume that that's going to happen again and again, or you can learn from it, laugh it off, go back, think through what you did, what you missed, and learn from it. And don't take it personally. Don't take it too seriously. Simsimo travel logs, I've entertained in the end. TBH, to be honest, J Bud 5000 even played the game back to the rude ones. Oh, yeah, like getting a scammer on the phone and taking up all their time and frustrating them, something like that. Yeah, J Bud's right. A proper girl will not ask for money, and that may sound unbelievable to some of you that are used to hearing it's all about the money. I'm on other sites a lot, looking around and commenting, and I've heard plenty of times, same thing. Oh, my wife didn't ask me for money. She wouldn't do that. She'd rather starve than ask me for money, or maybe I force her to take it, and I was like that with Aiza. I'd say, well, we're engaged now, for crying out loud. You should let me help you. Well, no, I'll be all right. I'll be okay. And it wasn't until we were married that, she really would take it, because at that point it was appropriate, proper, and necessary, and no big deal. But you're right. Proper girl will not ask for money because she has self-respect. She doesn't want you or others to think she's a scammer, because she isn't. Fake Western Union numbers, etc. Gave them the runaround, but only to the rude ones. Polite ones are left alone. Simsimo travel vlogs. Fighting back with the scammers. Okay, NJ Bud, that's a very salient point. Just understand the poverty. Don't take it personal. And I've been there. I've seen it. The first time, you almost it almost makes you cry, depending on the level of poverty that you see in some places, because it's like, man, I only saw this in pictures or TV or YouTube videos, but when you see it up close and personal, it's like, whew, that's very educational. And you can't do anything about the poverty anywhere, and just respect the Filipina that says, you know what, I've been taking care of myself all my life. I don't want this Westerner thinking that I'm like these scammers. I have respect. I have character. I'm going to say no. And we had more tiffs about her not accepting money, because I felt like, well, it's okay. We're engaged, or even when we were married. It wasn't until it became time for her to go to the embassy and get interviewed that she really, and of course the wedding itself, did she accept money. But again, completely different and appropriate. But great advice. Understand the poverty. Don't take it personal. If someone is trying to scam you, if you're there, you'll understand it. Doesn't make it right, but you get a good idea of where she's coming from, and it really makes you respect the Filipinas that don't ask for money even more, because how easy it would be pull the heartstrings of some foreigner, and in no time go to the bank and there's 1 or 2 or 3 months of salary for the whole family. You know, well, yeah. Jay Bud's talking about Panay's being asked for nude pics and cyber sex, so they don't trust uh, some Westerners either. Um, I mean, yeah, when you get involved with the wrong woman, you could do that, but um, there is a trust issue, and if it's my wife, wanted me to come down and meet her, I guess to make sure I was really who I said I was and serious, like I told her I was, and so we've been good. But yeah, that type of thing is totally inappropriate behavior online. Big E in Cebu, when you live here, you see it 1,000 times a year. Okay, you get immune to it. Well, sure, when you live here, or even if you visited there enough times, because it didn't affect me the same the third time as it did the first time. The first time was shocking, and you know, I love my wife. I love her family. I want to help them out. I don't want them to be struggling any more than I want to be struggling myself. So, we want to be good to her family. And if you're, it doesn't take a whole lot of money to help with that. So, another thing on the list here, a guy could say, well, all the women are the same. I don't believe Bob from Love Beyond the Sea that Filipinas are different. And, I've heard of some are scammers, and well, there's marriages that don't work out here. There's scammers here in the West. Sometimes the man is the one doing the scamming. Pretty universal that people are getting scammed, but um, the type of woman I found, I wasn't going to find here, and I treasure her and cherish her very much. She's not at all affected by feminism or what we might call Western, society or thinking. She's not. She wants to help her family. She wants to be a good wife, a good cook, a good lover, keep a good house. She'd love to be a mother. I mean, how can I not love, someone like that? Simsimo travel vlogs in India for 6 months, and I saw kids with missing limbs, and it was the parents that did it. So they are the better begging article. Um, well, yeah, that sounds awful. That is part of her culture, and by the same token, I think it makes Filipina a tough woman because she has to learn to deal with the culture, I shouldn't say culture, but the poverty that she might be growing up in. The heat is enough to kill someone. But a lot of times she's there. She's learning to survive. She's a tough cookie. Filipinas are beautiful, but they have to have some strength. At least I'm impressed with their ability to just live day to day and literally day to day, and seemingly have be a lot more joyful than women here. Jay Bud, most Panays will ask if you're chatting other Panays. Double-edged question, because they will get mad, but they're chatting other guys, so it's a hurdle to get over. That's true. They prefer you not to be chatting other women, because to them that's an indication that you're not serious about her. If you're serious about me, why are you still chatting with these other women? And of course, here in the West, we can chat other women. We can even date other women. And it's like, well, okay, the guy's not serious about me yet, but I'll go out with him, have fun. But I wish he'd show some seriousness one day. But Philippines, yeah, she considers it almost cheating if you think you got something going with her, but you still want to communicate with some other women because you're not sure, who you're going to ask to marry. Well, they don't see it that way. And they could be chatting with other guys. I mean, I think unless there's a commitment, you're free to do that. Like I said in the last live stream, I knew a woman who was engaged to be married, and her wedding was coming up in like 2 weeks. And I still asked her out on a date. Um, Not because I'm shameless, but because, she has a decision to make. Engagement just means you're going to be, uh, you know, focusing on each other. But if from conversations, maybe you find out they're not too sure about their decision, maybe they don't have the courage to say, no, I'm not sure about you, it's fair game. Just because they have an engagement ring doesn't mean you can't ask them out on a date. If you think, there's good reason for that. So yeah, if the guy, isn't there visiting her and making a commitment, whatever that tends to look like with them, then she can contact other guys too. I just think until you have this ring on your finger, probably the other hand, it's fair game. Um, Leery of immigrating her. We kind of touched on that. There can be costs. There will be costs of immigration. There's a lot of paperwork. It's not necessarily a scary thing, because I hired somebody from Christian Filipina. My wife was worried. She wanted to have a million pictures and a million pages of chat logs and all kinds of information. And my agent was saying, no, don't worry about that. You only need about 5 pages of chat logs and just a few pertinent pictures, like make sure the wedding, the person officiating the wedding is in there. Make sure it looks like you were actually there in the Philippines. Maybe have somebody else comment, a third party. Yes, I know Bob, and yes, he's been talking to me about going to the Philippines, getting married, like my pastor did. He sent a letter, and we had the basics. We had what we needed, and her interview was like 5 minutes, very quick. Asked her a couple of questions. You going to work? What does your husband do? Approved. And that's all it took. But we did have our preparation, but it can be a little nerve-wracking. I know there's a younger guy that's married someone in the Dominican Republic, and he's been laboring through unwanted delays in the paperwork. He did it himself, and I don't know what happened. And that could be a scare where somebody says, well, I read that somebody took 3 years to immigrate her. Well, in all likelihood, it's going to be closer to a year. And that because of it's taking longer nowadays than it was when we got married in 2015. But, you can hire somebody to help you with the paperwork. I did because I didn't want to screw it up. But there has to be some paperwork done and some costs. And then, of course, how's she going to adapt to the weather? Is she going to be homesick? She'll be homesick for a while, maybe months. That's just something to be prepared for and to get through. But that does not mean you should not find a good Filipina and immigrate her if she's willing to relocate. That's why I have some videos on that, or you can ask questions and to try to be comfortable with that. And yeah, Simsimo travel vlogs, J Bud. So any advice for that hurdle? And he says, be honest. Always a good point there, J Bud. Be honest. Tell her you have chatted other girls. But most are just playing around. They know Panay's play on Facebook all day. Just be honest. Good advice. Rhino wisdom. It's the age of social media. Any woman, foreign or Western, if she's even mildly good looking, will have a bunch of guys trying to get her attention in her inbox. It's the times we live in. I agree, Rhino. I agree with you. I agree. And one of the drawbacks to all of this social media has been people, maybe aren't as skilled at being together, person to person in each other's company, face to face. I mean, it comes simple, less threatening to just chat with somebody, and it feels great. But to have a real relationship, sooner or later you got to be together, and things have to change. So you don't want to get stuck in this communication for so long. One of the points I mentioned here was a guy could, keep himself from finding a foreign wife because he discovers how fun it is to just flirt and chat with a Filipina. And maybe that's all he wants to do, but then he's kind of wasting her time, because that time could be used by some guy who's serious about her and she could be talking to him, instead of, just him flirting with him. And yeah, you can flirt. It's nice. It's nice to flirt with someone, but and then you can maybe, I don't know, you could probably even be thinking you have a relationship going, and you certainly will be looking forward to it at work. I'm going to come home and this is so fun, and it is. But to me, it's empty calories because there's no nutrition there. It's not like, getting out there and meeting her with the purpose of maybe next time, getting down on one knee and asking her to marry you. But yeah, all this online stuff, I think, makes people kind of lose the ability to talk to each other in, face to face, and that's probably got a negative implication for a real relationship. Jay Bud, and you're looking for a serious girl. Well, if you're looking for a serious girl, and you want to say that. I certainly was serious, looking for a serious woman, and she could have said, "Oh, this guy is too serious." Like people said here, "Oh, you'll just scare her off because you're so serious about wanting a marriage." And I'm thinking, what is wrong with being serious about wanting a marriage? Especially since I've gone through my 20s and 30s and 40s. I'm in my 50s. I'm still looking for that. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'll be serious. If that's not what she's looking for, that's not what she's looking for. If it is, I just got that much closer to finding somebody. Jay Bud, don't accept friend requests from her friends or relatives. Believe me, they will move in on each other's territory. I can see that. Jay Bud's he's a fount of good advice here. So I would pay close attention to Jay Bud. He's done his research. Rhino Wisdom, it's the 8. Okay, I did that. Sorry about that. I saw it pop up and I got my eyes on the wrong place. Jay Bud, if she tells you good night, but if her green light stays on, it's a red flag. I think I need more coffee to understand that one. If she tells you good night, but if her green light stays on, oh, are you talking about like on an app or something, or Facebook? If she says she's going to bed or something, and you notice she's still on, or sometimes if something about her Facebook site, you can see who she's talking to, but yeah, and you could find out if she's entertaining other guys, if unless she has multiple Facebook accounts. Big E and Cebu, the dating life in the Philippines even 10 years ago was drastically different than now. 20 years ago, when I first came on business, totally different than now in the Philippines due to social media. So Big E, I mean, I suppose some of that is good and some of that maybe is not so good. I know that once you say that, the first thing in my mind goes to seeing all these, we talk about the poor areas in the Philippines, and still it seems like all the people that are there have cell phones. So very much using social media. And they say Facebook is the Philippines is Facebook capital of the world. Rhino Wisdom, Bob, I agree. Guys who wouldn't have the confidence to talk and flirt with a woman in real life turn into keyboard Casanovas. That's a good one. Get right to that. Keyboard Casanovas. I like that. Thank you. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah, it does give you a boost in confidence, doesn't it? And you could say, well, I'm liking this. I'm digging this. I think I'm going to do this for a while. It sure beats the alternative. But, It's nothing better than the real thing. That's a good point. And that's why I mentioned it. A guy could be that keyboard Casanova and just say, "Wow, I think this is a good alternative. I'll just be settle with that." I love that. Praise Journey. Thank you for joining us here late. Better late than never. It's a Friday night, so no work tomorrow, or I probably would be just about in bed. Praise Journey. I think Rike had a good point. She's not your girlfriend until you make the effort to see her. Thanks for the live stream. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your comment. Thanks for the thumbs up here tonight. Well, see there again. A guy can say, well, here I've gone from nothing to this pretty Filipina that we seem to have this connection with, and she's my girlfriend, and she even tells her friends and family in the Philippines, I've got this boyfriend. And well, yet he hasn't seen her in I don't know, 2 years or 1 year with no known intent to see her soon. And to me, I just think because of the distance and the less time you're going to spend in person, if you want to marry a foreigner woman, a Filipina, you should get out there. I mean, you can say, yeah, I met this girl. She's kind of my girlfriend now, but we're online, haven't met. That's okay. But, 12 months, 18 months later, if you still haven't seen her, to me, that's getting up there. And I would agree with Rike, she's not your girlfriend and he's not your boyfriend, till that effort is made to see each other, and they've done that. And a similar question came up in the last live stream: is an LDR, long-term or an online relationship, is that really a relationship? And we talked about why it might not be and why it might be. And I got a video on that coming out in the vault. There's I think if you got plans to see each other, you're making plans for the future, you're talking in future plans, that's different. If you've actually met in person already once or twice and you're still working on getting married, that's different because you've taken steps, you've done some things with intentionality. But lacking that, who knows how serious that relationship is. If I was the Filipina, I would be entertaining other guys until somebody showed up at my doorstep. That's what I would do. Simsimo travel vlogs, I used to have that with my ex, green light on after she said good night, or if I wake, she logs off when I log on. Okay. Hiding me at times, laughing out loud like I didn't notice. Well, she didn't notice that you were able to notice, but see, there's a little social media technical red flag right there. The rise of the phones. Biggie in Cebu. I was stationed in Subic in 1987 for a year. The Philippines has no resemblance to that life. Cell phones really changed a lot. Social media has changed a lot. So usually, anything that comes new on the scene can be corrupted. Television used to be a great thing. Now it's, a lot of shows just, are corrupt. But, it's easier to communicate with Filipina, texting, Skyping. That's a good thing. Sending money to her, like, if you're already close to her, have something going. There are always good things, and there are some drawbacks too. Simsimo travel vlogs. Final straw was her messaging me all the time at work in the week, and my free time, weekends, and hers always an excuse to not chat. So finished it and blocked her just 3 weeks ago now. Yeah, you've if you gotta chat, and it's got to be mutual. Both of you wanting to to be together. And I suppose a Filipina could get pushy and be wanting to chat all the time, kind of smothering the guy as if to keep him from away from somebody else. And that's, I don't know if it's a red flag or it's just being overprotective or insecure, but you know, there has to be a certain natural feeling to the whole thing. So, you know, the more you're in touch with each other, the more you can sit back and evaluate how that conversation went. How is it trending? How does your gut feel about it? You know, are you both comfortable in the relationship that you have so far? Um, yeah, Jay Bud points out here a proper Panay will swim in a shirt or a t-shirt and shorts. Any bikini girls are bad news. Check her pics. And Jay Bud, while I never want to say you know, never or be totally dogmatic, to me that would be a red flag. Um, I don't know that Aiza will ever wear a bikini, you know, and because a good Panay is more reserved and concerned about her appearance and doesn't want to be lumped in with these, you know, loose women, these liberal women, these scammers over there. So, you know, she doesn't show any unnecessary skin. And that's another video I've got in the vault on what a woman dresses and what you might be able to tell from her clothes. You know, I think you can get some signals from that. And, you know, the bikinis, yeah, first thing I always think about kind of, you know, in my mind when I see these pictures is, well, I'm not sure I would want someone that's showing off her body like that to potentially, you know, many guys. I know my wife would never do that when if she was back in dating again, being single. Simsimo, she was a teacher, traveled to work Monday to Friday, and blank me or send 10 messages and disappear. So I worked out she was going back to her man or husband on weekends. Yeah, if that you got that thought going on, very well may be right on. Blank me weekends, it's meant to read. Praise journey, red flag. Be cautious with women that don't really chat with you until payday comes around. And then you get excited chat and then get excited chat with you and then disappear for days. Well, see, look at all the different scamming or red flags we're learning about here tonight. Yeah, the good Panay, the self-respectful Panay will just say, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I can make it today. We're okay. You know, thanks, but no thanks. Um, that's the one you get more interested in. You know, why is she turning me down? I like that, you know, but I still want to help her. I want to find out more about her. So it does take some restraint. I mean, it does. If she's poor and she want to help her family and she's still saying, I know, sorry, I know you could help me. And I know I could ask this guy and he would give it to me and he would think nothing of it. But she tells herself, but I would. I'm not going to do that. I have her self-respect. Those are the ones that you want. So good comment, praise journey. A few more things on the list here. The man could say, well, yeah, it sounds great finding a foreign wife. However, it might take too long to get to know her. After all, I can't be with her in person. And, you know, I can kind of relate to this because I've said, and I'll keep saying it, that you really never know someone until after you are married. I mean, you're going to continue to learn about them, some really important things once you're married, as we have, and as I think we all have. So a person shouldn't let, I mean, look, you can know someone domestically, like we talked about earlier, and date for years, and it doesn't work out. Um, you know, what you can do to control the situation, ask her a ton of questions. I've got 3 sets of videos on questions to ask a Filipina right off the bat, questions to ask a Filipina to gauge compatibility with her, questions to ask a Filipina before you marry her. Because at each stage, you need to learn a little bit more or different things. I even have one that I haven't produced yet in the vault about questions to ask a Filipina after you're married. What I need to do, and I told Aiza, I'm going to put these in my phone so that we can talk about these questions, because so many questions I have not even asked of my own wife. We just kind of got married quickly, and there's so many things I need to ask her, and I think it would be fun, to sit down. And so that's something I'm going to use my own channel video or questions in those videos to learn more about my own wife. Simsimo, well, we argued every Sunday, and then she always said next weekend will be different, and same old again for a few months and give up. Well, yeah, if you're sensing things in that stage isn't working, then there's no obligation to be there. You can find a good Filipina in because you do have options. That's the thing men don't realize that aren't into this, looking for let's say a Filipina. You have a lot of options. Yes, there might be some insincerity from some scammers, but if you can recognize those and move on, you do have options. You have to be comfortable going to another country, and the costs. And if you're interested in a younger woman, well, can you handle her? Can you handle everything that goes with having a younger woman? I mean, you need to be sure, about what you're getting into. Jay Bud says, a good Panay will quickly learn your schedule and want to know every detail of your life. A girl who doesn't ask much about you, only talks about herself, is bad news. Jay Bud, you're worth $1 million here on these live streams, and you're helping a lot of people, and I really appreciate that. It's not because she's being nosy. She does want to know, when you're going to be getting up to talk to you, when you're going to be going to bed, when your first break is, when you're getting off work. And sure, I mean, some of it might be, she doesn't want you to get away, get off the hook. If she really likes you that much, as long as she's not being pushy, her wanting to know your schedule. I want to know her schedule, and didn't want to be pushy, but okay, when are you off work? When is a good time to talk to you? Because I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to clean up or get ready or eat or whatever, and then we're going to be able to talk to maximize my time. And sure, if she's always talking about herself, bad news. I would agree. She should want to talk about you and how your day was, and things like that. Simsimo travel vlogs, good advice. Should have picked up on the lack of questions, etc. Well, yeah. I mean, this is why it's important to reflect, analyze, critique. Your conversations, or maybe the first week or the first 2 weeks or something, and I had my pastor. I talked to him, and I'd say, well, this is how it's going. He'd say, well, I'm okay with that, because I want to help you get married, because it's a good thing. But kind of wish she was just a little bit older. We're only talking 4 or 5 years older. But he said that's okay. And I said, I'll tell you what's going on. If something doesn't sound right, you tell me. In fact, they even let him come over to the apartment on the computer at that time, apartment, and said, take as much time as you want. Aiza wants to talk to you. She's excited to meet you. She was her idea. Ask her whatever you want, and I'll just go do something else, and then we'll talk about it later. And he endorsed our relationship, because I told him, I think I'm going to marry this woman, but it'll be in the Philippines, because that's where she wants to get married. And so I needed to talk to her. Tell me what you think. So obviously, Aiza's going to be on her best behavior, but it was his chance to ask her questions and then come back and say, well, I didn't like this, or I picked up on that, or whatever. Just, I'm not against getting good advice and guidance, because, this is a big thing. So I don't know if it's a family member, a good friend, somebody you trust, go ahead and talk to her. I mean, talk to them about your relationship with the Filipina. And maybe they will be your extra set of eyes to pick up on some things. There's no reason to keep it a secret, because if you're not going to be getting some good advice, then you're more likely to make a bad decision. Doesn't mean you're incapable. If you ask somebody, what do you think about this? It's smart, it's wise to get, different opinions, but get it from people that you trust. So, and every time we have a bad experience, we learn from that. So another thing a guy could tell himself is, well, the culture, okay, yeah, they make good wives. It sounds great. I'm glad you're happy. I just don't know about the culture, um, or it could be the heat, um, the strong family bond. Maybe, I don't know, there's something that bothers you about that, or the very slow pace. Um, Maybe you're just uncomfortable with the food or the medical or just the getting around, and things are slower there. No doubt about it. Some may like that though at retirement. I mean, if you go there, but I don't know. Cultural differences. Again, I didn't know much about that. All I knew was I need to get married. Period. And I was going to get married if it was the last thing I do. I didn't want to be foolish and marry anybody. I just kept looking for a good one and happened to find her in the Philippines. Jay Bud, if she video chats you, if she is serious, she will show you family, friends, coworkers, anyone who is around when you chat. Good point. If she always does videos alone and secretive, bad news, very potentially bad news there. And again, people say, well, uh, don't um, don't pursue anybody that's always talking in a what do you call it, a internet cafe. Now, in some cases, that is the only place they can be. I mean, possibly. Um, it is nice though if she can have a phone or a computer and have the internet access at home. When I talked to Aiza, I always saw people walking around. And it was really cool when I finally met her for the first time. And I would say, "Oh, I remember looking at that when we were chatting. That was always in the background, and there's the setup, and that's where she was talking." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool." So, yeah, uh, siblings, parents, whoever is walking around, say hi, just say hi back. I always felt good to know that she was at home because everything she was saying, they could hear. And so it just kind of part of our desire to be transparent. Um, Now, I know people can always say, well, just be careful that the family isn't in on it, because I read about the family being in on it, and that could happen. Sometimes family is in on it. Um, so again, you gotta do the best you can to analyze the situation. And I just felt I never felt that there was anything to be alarmed at uh, with us, and I think she was on the level. A good point, Jay Bud. Um, yeah, she wants her family, and her family doesn't speak English. At least they're not as comfortable with that. So it's not like we had long conversations. But when I was there the first time, of course, we got to know each other a little better. Each time we're knowing each other better, and we're all part of the family. Although it can be a little awkward, that very first time. Um, Sean Dunaway, can anyone recommend a good resource for English speakers in America to learn Bisaya? I don't. I mean, Sean, are you a young guy or are you an older guy? Because I think the younger a man is, the easier it is for him to learn another language. I don't want to make excuses, but learning another language is tough. um, and Rhino says you can Google stuff like that. It's nice to have a person. Well, a good resource. A resource could be an app, or it could be a person. Um, and I applaud you for wanting to do that. I wish I knew. Phil's the Phoenix, I think, told me one time he put these stickers all around the house, describing, what, furniture, refrigerator, appliances, chairs, and colors, and just anything around what it was, stuff that you're looking at, that you can say in your mind, oh, well, that's paper, that's water, that's cup, that's coffee, that's computer, that's phone, that's pictures. And that's a really cool idea. It'd be a lot of stickies around here, but at least I'm matching the spelling. I think Aiza is contacting me on my phone. I can hear it in the bedroom. It's charging. Uh, the spelling with what it is, and especially if you can remember the pronunciation, which is a little bit harder. Kind of have to hear it a lot. Sean Dunaway, Rhino Wisdom, it's been unreliable at best. There are apparently several dialects, hundreds of dialects, actually, hundreds of dialects. And sometimes the Filipina will combine dialects and throw in some English too. JBud 5000, if she includes you in a group chat with family members, you're in. Well, that sounds wonderful, so think about that. And she's, I don't know, she's comfortable with you, I guess. When I when I asked my wife's father if I could marry her, the whole family was there. Aiza stood off to the side, and I'm right here on the computer, and I'm looking at the whole family. And so I had some kind of notes off to the side because I was only expecting to talk to Papa. But, I just basically said, what I would have said to him only, except the whole family there, which I thought was pretty neat. Sir, I haven't met I haven't known your daughter for very long. But I'm a guy who wants to get married. I've learned a lot about her, I think. We've talked a lot. I have strong feelings for her. I want to take care of her. I want to be good to her. I have a lot of respect for your daughter, and I'd like to know if I could have your permission to marry her. So he said yes, and then some of the family was asking me some pretty easy questions, and that was that. So that was a good thing. I'm glad we did that. Sean, I'm 43. And it was a lot easier when I was taking French in the 8th grade. Well, I don't know, maybe French is easier. There's a lot of dialects. I know it's tough. I wish it was easier. But hopefully, Sean, somebody that you're involved with will have good enough English. I find that the Filipinas speech to you is really good, but then the writing of the words, the spelling, that can be more challenging. But the communication versus speech, is tends to be easier, I guess, sometimes than actually writing it all out. Jay Budd says if she has an older brother and he video chats or chats on Messenger, it's a very good sign. If he chats with you, with the Westerner, I look forward to spending some time with her brothers, when we're there. And believe it or not, we're going to leave in 13 days. I can't believe it, the day after Christmas. And getting reacquainted with the family, and hopefully the children aren't scared of me anymore, as they're a little bit older and I don't have a beard. I don't like them running away from me and crying just when I want to see them or play with them. Big E and Cebu, the nice part is the English is the official language of the Philippines, and all the signage is English. And the Filipina will learn it in school probably. The thing is, she has to take that home and communicate with her family and friends who may also know some English, just so she can be more fluent in that language. So just a few more things keep a foreigner from finding a foreign wife. They might just not know many other men personally that do that, so they're going to lack a certain comfort level because they might feel like, well, boy, I don't know anybody else that's done that. But when they can learn more people that do that and maybe meet them in person, they're more inclined to say, well, hey, that's pretty cool. That works for them. Maybe that'll work for me. They could be impatient with the whole visa process. That almost cost me. When I found out I couldn't just go down there, marry her, and go to a honeymoon and come back on the plane, I thought, are you kidding me? I've waited this long, and you're telling me I have to wait maybe a year to be with the person that's my wife? I said, that sounds terrible, terrible. I said, I'm really displeased with this. I said, I didn't know. I didn't know. So I told Christian Filipina, well, you know what? I can't tell you right now whether I'm going to sign up because I'm just really taken aback by this. You mean I've waited so long and you're telling me it might take 10 or 12 months? Um, I said, I'm sleeping on this, and then I'll tell you in the morning what I'm going to do. So I did sleep on it, and I thought, you know, what have I got to lose? I'm not going to find anybody here. Um, yeah, another year would suck, but if I knew I could look forward to that person because we're married and it's just a matter of time, well, what's the alternative? I'm not going to find anybody here. So I said, okay, joined up 5 days later, winked at my wife online. 18 days later, we were engaged. So I could have missed out if I had said, you know what, I'm going to be impatient. I just can't wait out that visa process. The man could just lack confidence for some reason. Maybe I don't know, just for whatever reason lacks confidence and just is not going to want to go through the process of finding a foreign wife. And again, we talked about just loves chatting and flirting. And it could be that a man could have so many people in his ear telling him this isn't going to work. You're a fool. You're going to get scammed, and so on and so forth. And they just say, well, I guess so. It sounds too dangerous, and I'm just not going to do that. That could keep a man from finding a Filipina wife. J. Bud, most Filipinas will fall all over themselves if you show interest in her family. Learn the names, good point. Ask about different ones and what they're doing. Um, that's a very astute point, J. Bud. And all you got to do is, do what I did and take out a folder and or a notepad and get the names and spellings and pronunciations of her family. And some of the names are a little unusual, as you've probably noticed. You might say, that's a first name? How can I remember that? Well, you remember the name and write down the age, write down anything you can. I did because I knew I wasn't going to remember because some of the names are unusual and, they're scattered, going to school or working or not working. And that's a great point. And you can endear yourself tremendously by showing interest in the family. She loves her family. She lives with her family. Probably they might sleep 3 or 4 in a room. They're very close. It's incredible. I mean, that's just the way it is, part of the culture. And so the guy starts saying, hey, how's your sister and her name? And, how's school going? I know she had this big test coming up, or so-and-so's learning to drive a scooter, or I don't know, how's that relationship going or whatever. Do that. Take notes, man. And your opportunity is knocking on the door. You're this close to getting engaged, getting married, finding love beyond the sea, not being alone. Some men could be put off by the strong family bond in the Philippines. There's really nothing you can do about it. And when there are things where there's nothing you can do, there's no reason to try to change them. So embrace her family in the sense of understanding, accepting, even if you don't understand how close they are, especially mama and papa. That's just the way it is. The money is going to be sent home to support them. And if you're in the Philippines, you know why. And I would allow her to do that. Anything you can do yourself, even learn the children's names. I tell my wife I'm probably more excited to go on this trip than you are. Of course, she's been there twice this year for different reasons. I do want to, I want the kids to feel comfortable with me, like I'm they know my names now. They know who I am. Of course, my name is very easy to pronounce. It shouldn't be too difficult. Um, but yeah, I'm embracing your family. Looking forward to that. Good point. Good point. Take notes. Okay, Jay Bud says even asked about the dog's name. That's high level knowledge there. The name of the dog. And overseas foreign workers and girls away living in boarding houses aren't just sad being away for the holidays. It's a very real depression. So don't just breeze over it. Even though they're not 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 miles away, if they're not with their family, it's tough. I love my wife being happy, to be with the children there. She loves children, and I love seeing her happy, and that's good. And that's one thing I can do is help, uh, build an environment with my wife that she knows that I know what's important to her, and I want to do what I can to put her in those situations. Now, we're not ever going to go 3 times in a year to the Philippines again. We had the vacation scheduled, and then she had to go take care of the house business and buy everything for the house because it was just finished, and you have to have stuff in there. Everything in there she went out and bought in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. So she worked really hard to do that, and so now it's livable, and we're going to be living in there in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, I'll have video from the house. I want to do live streams from the Philippines too, and from the house, and do as many videos as I can. But you're right, and being homesick from the States, that's a real thing. So get used to a lot of crying about missing home. But he just understand, or at least accept, that she's very close to her family, and even being in another place in the Philippines can be hard on her, especially around the holidays. Just on her social media, so much of that is family, and it's a good thing. I think I like seeing that. Sean Dunaway, sounds like some OFWs aren't treated much better than slaves. That is true in some places. In some places, they're there 7 days a week, basically on call all the time, and that's not a good thing. Jay Budd elaborates here: 2-year contracts, huge sacrifice, living in cultures where they are viewed as second-class citizens. Now, Jay Budd, answer this for me, please, if you can. Is it possible that a Westerner, a foreigner, can say, what will it cost to get you out of that contract? I have read about guys trying that. And sure, that other country, they would lose the help, but at least they get the money to cover that loss, and they could just maybe rehire somebody else. Sean Dunaway, the lady I'm talking to, puts in 70+ hour weeks for the equivalent of $300 a month, but has never asked for anything. I hope I found the good one. You may have, Sean. Any questions you have, talk to Christian Filipina. If that's the, if you're the one that referenced Christian Filipina. But sure, not asking for money, out there working, being responsible, adapting to another country as an OFW, those are good signs that if she were to be with you in your country, which would be very likely at your age, that you might not have anything to worry about. And again, you can say, well, she's working so much for $6 or $5 a day, so I'm going to help her. But just got to be careful. It's appropriate, that you're in a serious enough relationship with her to do that and not be burned. So everybody here tonight, I do appreciate your time on a Friday night. a lot of good conversation here, and I hope people have learned, if they're considering Filipina or even considering that, and all the steps that they need to go through. I know you've probably learned a lot from this conversation tonight. Jay Bud, they can break the contract, but will be blackballed by the agencies and can never easily get overseas work again. Well, that's kind of a drawback there. But maybe they don't plan on working again overseas, and they plan on marrying this Westerner, and if he can get her out of the contract, and then she can go back home. But I mean, if she could find something that paid as well at home in the Philippines, that's where she would be. So, the money issue it just rears its head in different situations. But that's true. The Filipina you're chatting with might not live in the Philippines. She may be working overseas somewhere else, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 6 days a week, and just doesn't have a lot of income or time to spend it. And you know what? She's still probably sending half of that back home, and often neglecting their own needs for the needs of the family. Sean Dunaway, oh no, don't throw me in the briar patch. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by briar patch. You can educate me, and I can learn about that, because that's not a term I'm familiar with. Would like to know, though, what's a briar patch. While we're still on here today, just remind people at the top of the live chat, way back up there, is a link to the WordPress site where, my Facebook and Twitter and Aiza's channel, the videos, Mr. E commentary, a way to contact us, a way to contact Mr. E, message board, a forum that we started. It's more of a chat type of forum, so it might not be what you're accustomed to. But I like using it. Oh, directed at Jay Bud. So check that out. That's part of that WordPress site. There's a link to the community corner, relationship forum there, lifestyle lounge. You can see what's being talked about. Do a search. If it's not being talked about, you're welcome to start a topic. Sign up, get to know people there. And we're just starting out. I know it's not heavily populated yet, but hopefully it will. And you can talk to people who also are interested in finding a wife overseas. Hopefully, if we're patient in time, more people will be there. You can get a newsletter with some, the next live and classic video, most recent video, if you missed it, sent straight to your email, so you don't have to keep up with the notifications so much on YouTube, which can be easily lost if you're subscribing to a lot of channels. Jay Bud adds, most upon arrival surrender their passports and cell phones. They can earn their phone back, but most of the employers keep the passport until the contract has been fulfilled. Well, you can see where that would be kind of intimidating and maybe feel a little bit like a slave. I would be nervous to be without my passport. And it takes guts. These are brave women. These are strong women that will go work in a situation where they know might present some danger, in addition to being away from family. And it's tough, especially if their cell phone is limited at times. That's tough. These are strong women. They're resilient. Like I said, they can live anywhere in the world pretty much. I think they have some admirable qualities. If you are interested in a Filipina, I'd always heard they made good wives. I just never thought I couldn't find anybody in America. I didn't think I was creepy. I didn't think I was a loser. I thought I had a good plan. I just didn't seem like I had a chance. And I think I will talk about that more. Jay Bud, we talked about that one time, not opening up more, because I always am, but talking more about my situation. I do want to encourage other guys to not give up, because it is tough. It's tough in the West. to find somebody. There's a lot of negative influence around, and Mr. E has talked about that in some of his videos. And one solution is to offshore your love, which is he's talked about. And tonight we're talking about what keeps a man from finding a foreign wife. I'm really pleased with the comments and communication tonight, and I look forward to seeing everybody again. Just to let you know, I hope to do a live stream with Aiza Sunday night with her new work schedule. It is tough to communicate. Sweet love, hello everyone. I've not seen you here before. Hopefully you're not a late night drive-by troll, which I seem to get at the close of these videos. So hopefully you're not. We've been talking about what keeps men from finding a foreign wife for about, this could be the longest live stream I've had. So maybe if I'm getting close and I can set a record or something. Live streams are good for retention rates. YouTube will tell you the longer the video, the better. Now, some of the listeners, the viewers might not agree with that, but YouTube would say the My Philippines Experience, Frank Battaglia, has a video out now, The Death March of YouTube. I subscribe to his channel. I might check that out sometime. The longer people watch the video, the easier it is to get pegged or placed or something like that. And there's all kinds of tricks and editing things to do to keep people's attention. I don't have the time or the desire to do a lot of those things. I just try to do the videos and see where it goes. But the live chats, my top 5 lives anymore recently have been for watch minutes, have been all live streams, even older ones. But then they don't tend to get watched a whole lot within 2 days. But so I don't mind doing a long one, especially if there's people here and there's things to talk about, and I'm not working the next day. So Jay Bud says traditional women with traditional values are quickly disappearing from the United States. It is not the style anymore. Well, it is for me, Jay Bud, and that's why I'm glad I was able to find what I would call a traditional woman. What is a traditional woman? Somebody that doesn't try to act like a man, doesn't feel the need to do masculine things or get involved with things that used to be the domain of men. They're not spending as much time in the gym as a man. They're not drinking, or smoking like a man, or doing whatever used to, be considered masculine traits. Somebody that, wants to have children, perhaps. Somebody that wants to come home and likes to stay home and values time with her husband and will sit around and watch a movie, doesn't have to go out with the girls all the time, loves to keep a nice house, maybe have company over, I don't know, loves to cook, loves to shop, likes to keep a clean place. That's hard work. And she's still going to want to work, but she's not working for materialistic things to spend it on herself so much. I like that. Yeah, Jay Bud says here, it's not the U.S. culture for a woman to take pride in pleasing her husband. Filipinas like to please their husband. I said earlier, this is one of maybe 5 shirts that Aiza bought me on Black Friday. I don't have the watch. Well, she bought me 2 watches. I did a video of one watch she bought, which is not this one. This is a different watch that she bought, because this I would wear with more casual clothes that she bought, and the more fancy watch I would wear with the more fancy clothes that she bought. So Filipina, takes some pride in the appearance of her man. So don't get too worked up if she says, well, we need to do something about that. Um, it's a good thing, because I mean, if she doesn't care about your appearance a little bit, or buying you clothes, or you know says something about your hair, if she's if she doesn't care about this, that's probably a bit of a negative thing. And so don't feel like she's you know intruding on your life or something if she wants to make these improvements, because she's a woman and she cares about her man, and you know she likes to cook. My wife doesn't force any particular diet on me. I wish she would. I've told her at times, "Hun, don't buy that stuff, because if you buy that stuff, I'm going to eat it." She eats, let's call it finger food, or snacks or whatever, very sparingly, one at a time. Me, I'll grab handfuls, and I usually eat stuff up pretty quick. So I tell her, "Hun, don't buy that stuff, please. If you buy it, hide it from me, because I'm just going to eat it." So I try to eat better. And since I've been back to work this week, I've actually done some cooking, um, brown rice and some chicken, and bought some apples, bananas. I gotta get back into that, because sometimes Aiza will buy it and then I don't eat it, and that's just me being lazy. But yeah, she does care about her husband. Um, she does take pride in her husband too. J Bud, women are encouraged to be aggressive and prove they don't need a man. Well, there you go. That's part of a traditional woman. Traditional woman, whether she says it or not, will indicate or live, in a way that she needs a man. She needs that guy. She is glad for what he brings to her life. She wears her wedding ring with pride. The man doesn't have to look like Robert Redford. I'm older, I know. Brad Pitt, or who's younger than Brad Pitt and is hot. I don't know. But you don't have to be a Hollywood celebrity lookalike with a Filipina. You should take care of yourself, out of sense of pride for your own self, and improve yourself. But she's glad to be married, you know. She's glad to come home. Those are some of the differences with some Filipinas. They're not encouraged to be aggressive and don't prove they don't need a man. Not in the Philippines. That may be something that people get in their ear about here in the United States, but a woman is just in the Philippines. That's not of any interest to her. J. Bud says an educated American woman isn't taught to worry about her husband's laundry, and Filipina doesn't mind doing laundry. She doesn't mind cooking, cleaning up. Once in a while, Aiza might say, help mom with the dishes, or, would you do the dishes? And, Aiza does 10 times more than I do here. She'll even mow the lawn because she wants to get outside and get some exercise, as if working 50 to 60 hours a week isn't enough exercise. But, I like her attitude. Um, Yeah, suggest you do your own laundry. Well, 50-50. It kind of, Filipinos are not in this 50-50. And that's one thing I don't like, is this equality or something. It kind of gets to the extreme, well, you need to earn as much as I do. It could be like that. Or you need to do as much work around here as I do. Or you need to cook 50% of the time, and everything's got to be 50% of the time. And if I do this more than you do, well, then you're not pulling your weight, mister. And this isn't the type of marriage. I want it to be equal. And that would be a turnoff. Um, Aiza and I don't have those conversations. Anything, she maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to tell her to slow down and not do so much around here, or the cooking, and because she likes to cook and she likes to shop. She knows her stores and she knows how to go through those self-checkout places, and she likes to save money. She has coupons. Um, she likes to get rewards for the way she shops, and uh, I just stay out of that. If she likes shopping and earning her own money and working here in the yard or doing the cleaning, if she asks me to vacuum or something, it's like, yeah, I can do that, because she's not 50-50. Michael and Heidi, hey, thanks for joining here. It's 9:05. I appreciate you being here. We have not needed to hit anybody over the head with the wrench tonight, thankfully, unless you deleted a comment above. I don't know. Tell me about it later if you did. Jay Bud's been on fire tonight, as usual. No wonder it's getting so hot in here. He's got so many salient comments here about Filipinas and dating a Filipina. Yeah, he says here she will probably, okay, it's just the new culture here in the United States. Things aren't what they were when I grew up, that's for sure. The fast food drive-throughs are packed at dinner time. Well, once in a while we utilize that, but not too often, Jay Bud. Filipina still likes to cook, especially if Aiza wasn't working full time or as many hours. She'd cook, and we'd eat, together with my mother, and you've seen videos. I put videos out where Aiza's cooking. Um, I like buying her different cooking utensils. She just bought something. I think she called it an air fryer. It's sitting in the kitchen. I don't know how it works, but she'll buy different things. If that's going to make her life easier cooking, then I'm all for it, because she enjoys cooking, and I enjoy all of the cooking that she does. Jay Bud's comments, I just approved. I saw a message got retracted here from Sweet Love. I'm not familiar with everybody, so I don't know. Sometimes anybody is free to come and comment and watch and learn. That's what I want. Occasionally we'll get a troll, but I don't know that we've had any tonight. Oh yeah, the cell phone has replaced the man in most women's lives. Yeah, cell phones even here. Yeah, I mean, a man wants to feel needed. A man wants to feel like he has a purpose in the relationship. And if the woman gives off the vibe that she doesn't need you, she's fine without you, she's strong, she doesn't need your money, she doesn't need your advice, she doesn't need your strength, she doesn't need your pension, your retirement, or whatever. No, that's a major turnoff. I mean, men and women are to complement each other. And a woman that, I don't know, is she trying to impress a guy by making him think that she doesn't need him? Doesn't impress me. Makes me feel unnecessary. Um, um, I know I make my wife's life better, and that's kind of what helps drive me from day to day. Is I want to make her life better. I want to teach her stuff, influence her, give her opportunities. I want to be there when she's feeling down. I always want to make her feel good about herself. Women tend to have lower self-esteem than men, and I want to build her up, compliment her, things like that. Those are always good ideas for a woman. But I don't want to be with a woman that makes me think that she's, I don't know, doing me a favor, doesn't really need me. I need Aiza, and I think she needs me. So just one of the aspects here, we've been talking throughout the night about the effect of feminism on this society and how women are different. Mr. E's done videos on that, and we've talked about here that tonight. And so it puts a guy in a situation where he may feel like, wow, I don't want any of this. Am I still going to find a good wife? Okay, well, maybe you can consider someone overseas. It's a big move, as we've talked about tonight, but it's something to think about because, we're not getting any younger. And, a nice guy that is respectable to a Filipina, he can get a younger woman. He can get somebody that will be good to him. And in the Philippines, it's much easier um, with a Filipina. And it's just something to think about. You know, it worked for me. Um, I'm very happy. It kind of vindicates me because all those years I was alone, I was thinking, what am I doing? Am I chasing people off? Is it that? Do I have bad breath? Am I coming across as desperate or what? What is the deal? Why can't I seem to, go out with someone? And maybe they had boyfriends, maybe they didn't, but you know, I just don't understand it. The solution for me was Philippines and finding a woman that actually liked what I was saying, that actually wanted a man who wanted to lead in the relationship, um, who wanted to provide for her and be good and, kind of be the one to make the decisions when things are tough and we're kind of can't decide what to do. I think that's my job as her husband. And, I laid out what I saw marriage to me being like, what I kind of believed the role of the man was, the role of the woman. And if she agreed with that, I wasn't going to force it on anyone, but if that's what she was looking for, I could be her guy. And, we've been married 4.5 years. We have a house in the Philippines. We're going to be, Lord willing, doing videos from the Philippines in 2 weeks, including, our house, and I'll get to see it myself and the neighborhood and how the neighborhood has changed and things like that. I'm really looking forward to that. And Michael and Heidi, if you had been here earlier, I'm sure you'd probably agree with a lot of these things here. Things that keep a man from finding a foreign wife. He might say, "Yeah, I'm tired of the feminism here. I'll give a shot overseas." But then he might kind of get stalled at certain points, thinking about the money and time off work and flying and the time and fear of getting scammed and fear of what other people think and what family thinks, and are they going to have anything in common? The immigration process and cultural issues, the waiting out the visa process and hearing bad stories. He might lose confidence and say, well, I don't think this is a good idea. That's what the topic was about tonight, Michael, and I'm sure you had to think through some of these things. And now, admittedly, I didn't, because I was more the fear of being alone. The rest of my life was greater than the fear of the unknown, of going out there, embarking on the journey and adventure of finding a Filipina. So I had to do that, and I did. And so I was able to jot these things down here that we've talked about tonight. If you can come up with one here before we close. Things that would make a man say, well, I know this sounds great, and I believe, Bob, I can find love beyond the sea. However, I'd have to do this and have to do that, and I'm not sure I really want to do that. Or maybe there's trust issues or confidence issues. You want to be comfortable, but I do feel if you're a nice, decent guy and you can provide for her, you can get to the Philippines, you have the means to get there and visit with her, talk to her, treat her right, embrace the culture. You might be single now, struggling to find somebody, but you can end that if you take the plunge and try to explore finding a Filipina overseas. Many of us have done that. We're going to go out bowling, I think, tomorrow night with maybe 3 other Fil-Am couples that we know. And I think the girls are going to bowl. We might just talk. And I'll try to get some film on that if Aiza will let me. I can say, since she probably won't see this, that she did bowl the other night and she did not crack 100. But, years and years ago when I bowled, there were times I didn't crack 100 either. But there were times I would hit 200, which was kind of nice. J Bud says, and often heard discussion, I've heard women say, I'm not Tammy Wynette and all this stands, okay, it's Wynette and all this stand by your man garbage. Yeah, Tammy Wynette, stand by your man. Now I'll be thinking about that tonight when I fall asleep. Tammy Wynette and J Bud, who is she married to? Who was she standing by at the time, probably, that she had that smash chart-topping hit, Stand By Your Man? I know the answer, but I'm going to wait and see if J Bud knows as much about country western singers as he does about the Philippines. Michael and Heidi says, regardless of the Philippines, man has to have his spirit right. If you go over there broken, you're still bound for failure. Well, that's true. I mean, if there's, if there are issues in his life, maybe he, drug issues, I don't know, confidence issues, trust issues, whatever it is, being a broken person, is not going to go well in another country. If anything, he might be more likely to get taken advantage of. So you want to have your life together. The Philippines is not a place for any broken men to just go to the Philippines and whitewash all their troubles away and everything is going to be fine. If it were that simple, I wouldn't have, 330 videos with a lot more to come. Because I want you to know there are challenges, just like I'm saying here. Yeah, I want you to go to the Philippines and look for a wife, start talking to Filipinas. But I also know there's things that might make you decide not to. So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about, maybe generically, more or less in marriage, things that you need to know. Want to be realistic here. I'm not trying to fool anybody. Rhino Wisdom knows who Tammy Wynette was married to. Can you tell me? And maybe J Bud needs a clue here. He's probably taking the time right now to go Google it and sound smart. But Rhino, do you know the nickname of her husband? Very famous husband who had one of the saddest songs that I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't think this song by this guy could be any sadder. It used to make me cry when I listened to it because it's a very sad song. And it's not what I thought it was when I saw the title. And when I heard the song, I thought, man, that is a tearjerker, big, big hit. Maybe one of this guy's biggest hits. But yeah, Tammy Wynette stood by her man, at least tried to for a long time. Johnny Cash, his wife, June Carter Cash. Rhino, you familiar with June Carter Cash? She stood by Johnny Cash forever until he died. There's a woman, we're talking old times, she stood by her man. Tammy Wynette tried to stand by this person. I'll mention his nickname because J Bud's been silent here. The Possum. The Possum. Tammy Wynette was married to the Possum. They even had some songs together with this man. This man had a drinking problem. Tammy Wynette and this country music superstar that shall remain nameless until J Bud can give me an answer. But yeah, everybody has a breaking point. Filipina can have a breaking point. Physical abuse, verbal abuse. You're probably going to lose that Filipina. because and no woman is going to want to put up with that, but they may put up with a lot of other things. Rhino Wisdom, the late great, I suppose, late George Jones. Let me guess, that song, The Grand Tour. Now, I haven't heard that. I'm going to have to look it up. The song I'm thinking about is She Stopped Loving Me Today. No, he stopped loving her today. Rhino, George Jones. He stopped loving her today. Very, very sad song. Big hit. Very, very sad song. Really good lyrics. Very sad. Not what you think it is when you consider country. Well, yeah, you think of cheating and things like that, but that's not what that song is about. J Bud, I heard a guy say on another channel that he is older and invisible in the US, but goes to the Philippines and becomes relevant again. Relevance. Good term. J Bud, did you know who Tammy Wynette's husband was? Country singer? Now you know if you're looking at the screen. It was George Jones, a man of many hits. But the Grand Tour, I'm not familiar with that song, but yeah, he was very, very talented. I used to work at a country station. The reason I'm familiar with George Jones at all, back in 1982 or 82, yeah, in Sturgis, South Dakota. And we always had a reel of songs, a literal massive reel that we rotated with the other ones that would break once in a while, which is really frustrating. And so, yeah, he was on a lot of the classic ones. They had Hank Williams and Vern Gosdin and, boy, a lot of these older, Jamie Fricke, Tammy Wynette. I like music, there's some rap music I like. There's some country. I like music, and even some of these country guys, I got used to them when I was playing it every day. And there's some guys now I still like. I can appreciate music. You didn't know George Jones? Okay, Rhino says, listen to the Grand Tour by George Jones. Very sad song. Well, if it's as sad as He Stopped Loving Her Today, then I better bring some Kleenexes. But yeah, George Jones, good songwriter. I assume he wrote those songs. But as far as J Bud's comment about being relevant again, my confidence obviously was not very high back in 2015 March when I was alone. I didn't know how anything was going to change. I didn't feel relevant. I felt invisible. I'd go out to eat, and there's people sitting over there, couples in the restaurant. Where do they put me? Because I'm there by myself and must have leprosy or some communicable disease. They put me way over there on the other side. And there were times I'd get upset and say, why are you putting me over there? I don't have a disease. I want to sit over there. I got real vocal about it because, like, come on, am I invisible here? Do I going to be disturbed by their conversation? Put me over there. Don't isolate me. I always felt isolated when I go out to eat and they see me walking by myself, or maybe not a wedding ring. I don't know what they think, but they're putting me way over there. Maybe that's a restaurant thing, and I don't know. I just didn't like it, and I felt irrelevant. And now that I'm married, I do feel relevant. I have a purpose in life. I need to take care of Aiza, and I need to be with her. I need her very much. I have a future to build around this woman, and we build together. So, yeah, I really like that. J Bud says, I remember Hillary saying, I'm not Tammy, standing by her man, as if it was a bad thing during Bill Clinton's affair situation. It takes a lot, to stand by someone with an affair, but I'm not gonna pardon something like that. All I'm saying is that, um, need to be committed. I did a video just recently about commitment, maybe within the last 2 weeks. 14 ways my Filipina knows I am committed to her. I'm going to stand by her. I mean, I'm committed to her. I want her to know that, not so she can go out and take advantage of me, but because I want her to know this is a safe place for her to be. She can screw up. She doesn't have to always be everything I want her to be or do everything I want her to do. We're all human. We all screw up. I certainly do. I just want this to be a safe place for her to come home to be herself. It's about safety and what's the word I'm trying to use? Uh, they want to. It's a financial term. But I'm trying to use it with safety. They want to be taken care of and be provided for, that sort of thing. So yeah, she needs a safe place to be. But yeah, Filipina will stand by her man. Just don't beat her. Don't just be good to her. Rhino Wisdom, modern day country songs like the Eagles of 30 years ago sounds more like rock of 30 years ago. You like the Eagles, Rhino? I saw the Eagles in person. They were in Omaha like 5 years ago, maybe. No, that couldn't be. Might have been a little more. But the guy at work had tickets and he couldn't get a date. I've been there before. I had Garth Brooks tickets and I couldn't get a date. I had Garth Brooks tickets and I went with a guy at work. And then I think the first time I might have gone by myself, but he was a big country fan. And, I said, well, it gives me a chance to see Garth again. I'll go with this guy at work. And then the Eagles, another guy at work couldn't find a date. So he said, well, Bob, you like the Eagles? You want to go out with me and to the concert? And I said, yeah, let's go to Omaha. The Eagles were awesome, man. I mean, this was later in their career. And if you had shut your eyes there, you would have been listening to the same quality talent that you listened to in the 70s and 80s with the Eagles. Much respect for the Eagles. I mean, those guys may or may not have always gotten along, but man, did they had great songs, great talent. I mean, the Eagles are one of my favorite bands. Jay Bud, play that song for women today and watch their sickened response. Stand by your man. Yeah, as if, I wonder what the response was, Jay Bud, way back then when the song came out. I don't know. My guess was probably, not much response as far as negativity. And maybe, like a lot of songs, there was a lot of personal involvement with that song, from her life with George Jones. But yeah, you want to be a man that stands by his woman, and you'll be tested. Sometimes, more than others. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? And you want a woman that's going to stand by her man. And I think I have a woman that will stand by me. She certainly knows I'm not always as charming as I am on these live streams. I'm just kidding. But she gets to see the real me, and I get to see the real her. But yeah, that song would not be a chart topper today. Maybe in a notorious sense. Rhino Wisdom, love the Eagles. I was actually annoying my fellow workers today because I was singing "Take It to the Limit" one more time. Take It to the Limit. Yeah, good song. A good slow song. Ballad by the Eagles. They could do it all, really. They're a good group, And the thing about lead singer, don't let me forget this. How can I not know the lead singer of the Eagles? Desperado. Oh, this is terrible. I must be suffering Alzheimer's. Don Henley. Whew. I saw the frizzy hair, when he was younger. Don Henley, Desperado. Desperado was a song I thought of a lot when I was single, because every time I heard that song, I thought, my goodness, they're talking about me. You know, they say, don't you choose the Queen of Diamonds. The Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. So Desperado, by the way, is the song they end their concerts with. When we were there, they hadn't played it yet, and they didn't play it. Unless it was the last song of their set. It might have been a song they played in an encore, but they're not leaving without playing Desperado. And if they don't, everybody's going to demand that they play it. So that was cool. Desperado's a good song, always kind of made me sad when I listened to it. But good song. The Eagles, great songwriters. I think that's what we're missing today, Rhino, is lyrics that make sense. The lyrics aren't the same, 11 words repeated 7 times or 7 words repeated 11 times. These acts, there's talented performers today, but it seems like there's more of them that aren't quite so talented. Back when I grew up, in the 70s and 60s, that was talent. We used to have a station on that would play songs from the 50s and 60s. I don't think they're around anymore. I like music from the 50s. I like music from the 60s. It's got a vibe. It's got a sound. It's got a feel to it. I like music from the 70s. And then there's the one-hit wonders of the 80s. I just like music. I would have it on all the time if I could. The Miss Universe pageant is like the Super Bowl in the Philippines. Yeah, and American women boycott it. In the Philippines, it's a big deal. Now, this year, Jay Bud, I think Miss Philippines, wanted to, if I'm wrong, correct me, she wanted to let the other pageant participants have a chance to win, so she just didn't enter it this year because, you want the other countries to have a chance to take home that crown. And if the Philippines is in there, well, how we dominate those beauty pageants, the Philippines. So, no, actually, I'm kidding. She was in there. I don't know where she finished. Aiza and I didn't watch it this year. I didn't even know it was on, but we saw the exciting conclusion last year when Philippines won Miss Universe. You would say, or American women would say that the Miss Universe pageant sexualizes women. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's I don't know. There's a lot of women that are sexualizing women, and they're complaining about men. Appreciate the thumbs up. With the way they dress and the way they act, they're sexualizing women, yet they have the same gall to, I don't know, call out men for acting on that when they're certainly sexualizing themselves, but then they act like, nobody should be attracted to them. And if they do, there's something wrong with them. But then they dress the way they do. Miley Cyrus, the Queen of Country, she might have, I'm not all that familiar with Miley Cyrus. I'm sure I don't know if she has country songs. I think she's more of a pop singer, right? Although I couldn't tell you any of her songs. And she's probably talented. I don't know. You have to have something to make it. Her father, of course, Billy Ray Cyrus, that is her father. He only had like 1 hit, as far as I know. I don't know how many hits Miley's had, but I referenced her in that video with the person she was married to, Liam Hemsley. Is that right? Was that his name? Yeah, strange situation. These women in the Philippines, they're not affected by the culture. A lot of people are assuming they will be once they get here, but that does not have to be the case. And, it is something, you wouldn't want to go to I wouldn't want to go to the Philippines and marry someone that's already starting to show a feministic rather bent. That would not be advisable, I don't think. J Bud says no, she's country, but she crossed over for the money. Um, well, that too. I mean, you got to earn a living, and as long as somebody is talented, um, I guess I don't mind that, but I do it does kind of irritate me when there's songs that sounds like the next song. All the songs sound the same, or they sound like they're copying somebody else just to be popular or make money. How about Steely Dan? Anybody copy Steely Dan today? Any Steely Dan fans out there? I like Steely Dan. I was listening to Steely Dan before I started the live stream 3 hours and 35 minutes ago. In fact, because of YouTube, I know more Steely Dan songs now than I did when I was a kid. And so I can appreciate their music now because you can get about every song out there. So it's really cool. I mean, you can get older and still learn more songs, even if it's by old groups. You can get those hits, and maybe they weren't, commercially popular back then, but you can hear them now. I like Steely Dan. In fact, they were just here. One of the reasons I didn't go, other was, I don't think Aiza would want to spend $70 or $80 or whatever it was she's not familiar with them. And then, when they are older, it's kind of like old athletes. It's like, let's say you watch Manny Pacquiao in his prime, and let's say another 10 years and he's still out there, or like George Foreman, who was out there when he was older. And it's like, kind of sad. You want to remember them in their prime, and Steely Dan isn't what they used to be, but because these guys are 70 years old, but as far as I know, the music they make is still good. So you guys, thanks for keeping me company, and I hope you were able to take in a lot of these comments that were made from people tonight. J Bud burning the house down again. Appreciate your comments and everybody's contributions. So subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea if you haven't. Most of the view minutes are coming from people that are not subscribers, and I've had an enjoyable time. I'm on vacation now after going back to work for a week, so I enjoyed staying up with you. And thanks again for being here. Don't forget, it's possible Sunday night. In 2 days, Aiza might be doing a live stream with me, and I am going to try to do a live stream with Philippines on Demand. Bill from Philippines on Demand. He's in the Philippines, but he's got a topic we want to talk about, which is about. Let me see here if I can pull it up. Family separation while living in the Philippines. I think that's something we want to talk about because well, you'll see how that goes. Yeah, don't be afraid to pursue a Filipina, J Bud. That's what we're talking about tonight. There are some things to think about. Let's get your ducks in a row, find out what you're doing, and take one step at a time, and you can find love beyond the sea. So until next time, everyone, you guys have a great weekend. Be safe. And, get your Christmas shopping done. And don't forget to buy me something. Just kidding. Till next time, we'll see you then.